Blank check with Griffin and David. Blank check with Griffin and David. Don't know what to say or to expect. All you need to know is that the name of the show is Blank Check.
There's enough bang in there to send us all to Jesus. If I'm gonna die, I want to die podcasting.
Great. Comfortable? Is that the line?
Comfortable, yeah.
Yeah. Great.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. My name is Griffin Newman.
It's drinking your pink coffee.
Pow. I just shit my pants.
I'm David Sims.
This is our ASMR episode. Lock the gates. This is a Criterion edition of John Tucker Must Die.
All right. Turn up the volume. What would happen if I just put that up right now?
It would get louder.
Okay. Go.
You know, I've gotten that complaint before that our podcast isn't loud enough.
Yeah. Sometimes our voices drop out a little bit because we like to go quiet.
That's because you start the show off by going, podcast!
Hey, Ben,
later,
watch the mic. Watch the mic.
And then later, you'll go, what do you think is going to happen? Anyway, sorry.
Hey, Ben.
Making him so mad.
Who are your guys?
Welcome to Blank Check with Griffin and David.
I remember Damon Wayans saying, tonight I'm just going to do a jazz set.
This is his favorite Mark Maron thing to reference. I don't even remember it. Has he said it many times?
He says it a lot.
Yeah.
What's wrong with me?
It's really interesting to watch Griffin prepare to say something idiotic.
Yeah, right. It's sort of, you see his wheels click.
Yeah, exactly. The gears turning.
What the fuckstables?
All right. Come on.
Hello, Blankies, Blankoricans.
No, don't.
We have. This is. I mean, it'll be too late by the time we record this.
Let's get into the episode.
We do have a listener in Puerto Rico who posted to our Reddit that we're the thing keeping him sane right now.
Which I was I'm very appreciative of, but I also was immediately like, can we help in any more concrete way? I'm glad the podcast is helping you stay sane.
But also, we can send you pasta.
Right. Is there
Anyway.
Boy, that was a little jarring.
But this episode goes out to him.
Yeah,
I believe his username is I Laugh Alone. I don't know what his real name is.
I only know him by his username. I Laugh Alone.
He's our Blankorican.
Yeah.
This is a podcast called Blank Check.
Mm-hmm.
We're hashtag the two friends.
Yep.
We are connoisseurs of contest.
What?
We are contest of connoisseurs.
Jesus Christ!
How long is this going to take, you guys?
2 hours.
We are contest of champions.
We are connoisseurs of context, I guess.
Yeah.
Uh-huh.
And this is a podcast about filmographies. Directors who
true.
had massive success early on in their career and which issued a series of blank checks. Sometimes the check's clear and sometimes they bounce, baby.
That's right.
So I didn't realize that Catherine Bigelow had been granted a blank check.
Her two obvious blank checks, Griffin, do you agree with me?
Strange Days and Zero Dark 30?
Yeah.
I think Detroit also qualifies as a blank check movie.
Yeah, for sure. I wonder how much that cost.
Check bounced, but that was...
It wasn't that expensive. $34 million. But still,
okay. But I mean, she had complete control over that. That was Megan Ellison just writing her check.
That's true. Strange Days is her very obvious blank check movie.
She's less blank checky
than
than
sci-fi movie from the mid-90s.
The other directors we covered. Yeah, I feel like her checks have always been more conditional, which, a
little more. But she was also the first woman to get $100 million for a movie.
That's another thing. I mean, she crosses these weird...
K-19, The Widowmaker.
And
Submarines.
And first woman to win an Oscar for Best Director.
For this movie?
For this fucking movie.
We're talking about today, a historic movie, a Best Picture winner.
True. How many Best Picture winners have we discussed on this podcast?
2?
What? Go on.
This and Titanic?
Titanic. Is that it? I guess that's it.
Right?
Yeah.
Crow nominated. Spielberg,
you're right.
bunch of those were nommed.
You're right.
Sixth Sense was nommed.
Okay, wait, but I have 2 questions. Also, you guys haven't introduced me. Do you want me to introduce myself?
I always like the guests to talk a little bit before we introduce them.
Oh.
That's my thing.
My sincere bad. I was
No,
waiting.
you're good right
now.
I'm killing it right now.
Killing it.
I'm killing it right now. That's all you need to know about me. I Okay, so I have two questions. One, how much did The Hurt Locker cost to make?
$15 million.
So that's not much of a blank check.
This
movie
was
at
not
all.
a blank.
Right.
This was not.
Okay.
This was a
not
scrape money together.
Okay.
Any which way you can and make this little movie kind of movie.
But this is
So I was telling
because she was in the wilderness for this movie.
But this movie becomes a guarantor for her. This allows her to get issued a couple checks in a row.
Fucking good for her. I love this movie, and I love her winning for this movie. And I want to tell a small story.
Please.
Well, I'm going to keep telling the story. Is what happens.
Carry on.
So I just rewatched it. Right. So I watched it when it first came out, and then I rewatched it with my sister.
Had you seen it in between?
No.
Same here.
Okay.
Same here.
This is only the second time I watched it.
Yeah.
And my sister is not someone I can get to watch movies with me all the time.
Mm-hmm.
She doesn't like watch things just because they exist. You know, she that's not her thing. But she just started working at the VA. She's a psychology grad student. She's an extern there. She now has patients. She has people that she provides therapy for, who are, some of them are Vietnam vets, some of them are from Iraq and Afghanistan, all over the place. Some of them are just like they were stationed at the DMZ and they now need like help. And I got her to see the movie for this reason, and she didn't know a woman had directed it. And so at the end, like in my defense,
you blew her mind.
I fucking told her like 4 times that Catherine Bigelow won an Oscar for it, but I don't think she realized that Catherine Bigelow
she wasn't really thinking about
was a woman.
Was she a costume designer?
At the end, right. No, seriously.
Great costumes
And then
in
at
this
the end,
movie.
she was like, "Oh, like a woman directed it," and I was like, "Fucking yeah, man, a woman directed it," and that's one of the reasons it's so fucking good.
I have a very similar story, and it's the thing that I always think of with this movie. But I went to go see it with Sophie Fader, my best friend, often invoked on the show.
Great person.
And
I don't know her.
You'll meet her someday.
I'm sure she's fine.
You're a friend of mine. She's a friend of mine. Everyone should be friends with each other. We're the 2 friends, but everyone else can be friends as long as they're fine landing outside of that tight circle. But during the scene where they're drawing the targets on each other's chests and punching each other after they've been wrestling on the floor in their quarters, Sophie turned to me and said, this was opening weekend, Sunshine Theater. She turned to me and said, "This is the most masculine movie I've ever seen."
Oh, yeah.
And I said, "It was directed by a woman." And she went, "Ha ha ha, okay." And I went, "No, seriously, it was directed by a woman." And she went, ha, ha, ha. And I went, "No, honestly, it was directed by a woman." She went, "Okay, wait, I'm trying to watch the movie."
Right.
Enough with the jokes. And then when it got to the end credits, she went, "Wait, it's actually directed." Like, she couldn't believe that was the case. And especially at this moment, because she hadn't made a movie in 6 years, 5 years?
5 years, 6 years.
6 years. 6 years. And the 2 before this had been big flops.
Right. Yeah.
And
what were the ones before?
The 2 before were The Weight of Water, which was shot in 2000, festivaled in 2000, not released until 2002. And K-19, The Widowmaker, of course, the namesake for this miniseries, Pod 19, The Widowcast, which also came out in 2002. And those 2 movies bombed really fucking hard.
Right.
Do you guys have podcast widows? That's such a bummer.
Podcast, The Widow, whatever. Oh my God.
Widowcaster.
Oh my God. Yes, The Widowcaster. But in between, she did make a TV show. We should mention.
Starring.
We'll get to that.
Starring.
Remind me. Who's the star?
Jim Belushi.
Whoa, really? No, that's Wild Palms, right?
Oh, Wild Palms, the miniseries, yes.
Yeah, I'm talking about The Inside, which is
she got fired off of.
I know, but that's how she gets to
the script.
Mark Ball.
Okay, yes, but she did get fired off of that. But I just think we should connect the dots because for some reason Jim Belushi has come up almost every single episode of this miniseries and seemed off topic, and that was going through the filmography, and Wild Palms, a miniseries that she directed a part of, starred Jim Belushi. So guess what? All those Jimbo references on topic.
I agreed. I just remember I read an interview with her once where she was like, "Look, I wasn't like dead. Like it's not like I was not allowed to make movies. I did work on this TV show, and that kind of didn't happen for me.
She directed episodic stuff. I think she did a documentary.
So she was sort of floating around. Is all she's saying, rather than like it wasn't like I had to like break the door back down to get back into the industry.
Sure.
But she had been gone for a little while, and it had been a long time since she made a hit movie, basically 15 plus years, because Strange Days was also not a hit. So The Hurt Locker. Have you introduced our guest?
No, our guest has a great friend of ours, but hasn't been on since the Star Wars days.
Oh, it's a good episode.
It's because you guys don't like me very much.
That is not.
We're just pretending.
True.
We're just pretending we're friends. It's fine. It's fine.
There were a couple that you were
My
almost
pain about
on.
It's going in the Hurt Locker.
There were a couple you were almost on. I remember.
Oh my God, thank you.
No. But I feel like there were a couple times where it was floated out
No, I'm
to
not.
have you on episodes,
It's fine.
and then it didn't work out for scheduling.
Yeah, we
reasons.
wanted you on Catch Me If You Can. Actually, I remember that.
Oh,
right.
right.
And then,
Yes,
and
we
then
did.
I'm
scheduling
not
was
making this
weird.
up. There
No,
were
no,
times
you're
that we
not
were
making
it up.
talking about.
I
But
know.
you know, yeah.
I know.
And
These
you were
things
going to
happen.
be on the Michael Bay series that we do not speak of.
Right.
Wait, is that not happening anymore?
It may happen one day.
It was supposed to happen 5 months ago.
Guys, get me on to talk about the island. I have so
Yeah.
many feelings about the island. It's unreal.
That is
Everyone
pretty
wants
unreal.
to talk the island.
It is true. That
Oh,
was
is
the
it
hottest
everyone?
one.
Oh,
I
that's
think because
funny.
it's the weirdest movie he's
Yeah,
ever
but Alex
made.
Ross Perry wants to talk the island.
Oh no, I have competition.
What if we have 12 guests on our
We're not
The Island
doing
episode?
Michael Bay anytime
that would
soon.
actually be really funny.
By the way, we're doing Michael Bay next. So if you're listening, we're doing Michael Bay.
Oh, wow, you said their names.
Bleep it out, Ben. Bleep it out.
As our rival. All right, we're not going to talk about them. We're going to talk about the Hurt Locker.
Of course, we're talking about cereal.
Come at us, cereal.
Don't bleep that out.
Yeah. Leave that in.
Leave that one in. Bleep the first one out.
Cereal.
Also twisted, also fingered.
Unbreakable. Do you still even have that one?
Yeah.
Sorry, you were being real silly.
No, it's fine.
Our guest today is a writer for Variety.
Damn right. TV critic at Variety.
Right. And analyzed the broken heart of Anakin Skywalker on Revenge of the Podcast.
And Padme Amidala.
That was a
They're
great
two broken
episode.
They're
hearts.
broken hearts.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that meant a lot to me, you guys.
Anakin, you're breaking my heart.
Right, it was that episode. Yep. It's a good episode. It's crucial.
Man.
A good friend, Sonia Saraiya, thank you so much for coming back on the show.
Oh my god, thank you guys so much for having me. It's really great to be here.
Really excited to have you
It was when we were with talking Bigelow and we were like, and I was like, I had this vague notion. I was like, I think Sonia might really like the Hurt Locker. Like it was sort of just like lodged back in my head somewhere.
I feel like if I've ever mentioned something to you in the past like 6 years of our friendship, you remember it.
It might be
because
like
that's
floating
your
in my brain.
Yeah,
Right.
No, so
And
that
the
makes
two
sense
of
to
you
me.
used to podcast together.
We did, although I don't know that we ever talked about the Hurt Locker
Not
or
that I
anything
can
like
remember,
that.
but maybe we
Saying
did.
It's mostly
podcasting,
this
it's a
that
very close
David's
relationship.
brain. It's everything. I kind of like to sometimes when we're like in gatherings with other people.
It's everything.
No, there's everything is in there.
Sure.
Like I'll be like randomly, I like called him across the room, David, what was the 2003 winner for Best Picture? And he'll like just say it, and everyone around me is like, oh my god, I didn't know David could do that. And I'm like, you guys, this is why you're friends with David.
It's I did do a game once at a party. I remember where I could name the first and not the first one, but the title of the last episode of most TV shows.
Wow.
You know what I mean? Like, because the last episode of most TV shows is usually this kind of like vague sounding title with a
Frasier.
sense of like finality.
Portentous, yeah.
I can't remember Frasier.
Friends.
So the last one.
Yeah.
Mad About You.
Mad About You, I have no idea. Frasier, I do know, and now that's sticking in my craw.
Inside Schwartz.
They finally go outside Schwartz. No, I don't know.
How I Met Your Mother.
I don't know. That was after.
Yeah.
Good Night Seattle. That's the last
yeah,
episode
of course it
Frasier.
is. Yeah.
But I mean, I'm thinking of like
MASH.
The MASH is Goodbye, Farewell, and Amen.
Oh, right.
ER.
Like
Sure.
ER is because that's the one with Alexis Bledel. They have such vague names. Fuck. Do you remember what the last one? No.
For
you don't know.
ER? No.
Like, you know what the
No.
last episode of The West Wing is called?
Oh, my God.
I'm gonna look. Up
No,
the-
I don't think I do.
The East Wing.
Tomorrow.
Oh, yeah, of course it is. Ugh.
It's like it's something sort of
Yeah.
amazing to me about how boring these titles get to be. Like the last episode of Lost is called The End.
Yes, that one. And Blackadder is just goodbye with like
Goodbye.
several E's. Yeah.
ER's last episode is called And in the End.
Yeah, sure.
Right? It's
Yeah.
amazing. And
Yeah.
I could play this game all
Sex
day.
in the City.
Oh, wait
Sex
a
and the
minute.
City
That
is
one I
called-
should know.
It's called like An American in Paris, but like not that. Isn't
Wait,
it?
I thought that was the.
Or is that the beginning of the
I thought that was the beginning of the Paris arc.
It might be, yeah.
Oh, shit.
No, I'm right. An
Oh,
American Girl in Paris, part un and part
Part
deux.
deux, right? Yeah.
Boy.
Oh,
Boy.
fuck that.
6 Feet Unders is Everything Ends.
Uh-huh.
The Sopranos is Made in America.
Yes. Mad Men is Person to Person.
Person to person, good name.
Breaking Bad is Felina.
Felina.
The Simpsons.
Never gonna happen, baby.
Never. It's literally never going to happen. Yeah.
Yep. Yeah, I could keep going all day, but
Blank Check.
should probably do this podcast, right?
Blank check the
Last
Hurt
episode,
Locker.
The Hurt Locker.
Hurt
Blank
Locker.
Check the TV show, which someone's gonna make.
Someone's gonna make it. it's weird because this is the last episode we're recording in this miniseries.
We're saying bye-bye.
We've done this a little out of order because of guest scheduling, and I'm really happy with the lineup of guests.
It was worth it too.
But there was a lot of like us throwing out to people who we haven't had on in a while, or people who we have never had on before who had asked about doing the show and saying like, which of these do you want? And no one claimed the Hurt Locker.
It's true. I thought that was going to go early, but for some reason that was the only one that no one left.
The big one, and we weren't like picking a movie and then reaching out to people. So then we had this thing where we kept on like we had recorded every other episode. And we were like, who do we get on for the Hurt Locker? And then David went like, I think Sonia really likes it, and I was like, yes. And all three of us. I mean, Ben, did you see this movie in theaters?
No.
And had you seen it before recording this episode?
I had seen it less than a year ago.
Okay.
Yes.
So you'd seen it recently. The three of us had not seen it since it was
I saw it in
theaters.
theaters, and then I saw it again, like last weekend.
I thought of it very highly. I remembered it pretty vividly.
Yeah, I remembered the first half very well.
Oh, God.
The second half, I
interesting.
was a little more like, I was like, oh, God, I forgot all this stuff happens. Like,
I forgot all the stuff with Beckham.
The only thing I remembered really
was the boy,
was the body bomb,
Yeah.
Okay.
because that part is so fucked up.
I did vaguely remember that.
And I was actually reading about it afterwards, and that's like a very controversial element.
There's
of
only
the movie.
one case of it
happening,
that's documented,
and it didn't work,
right?
And
which is unsurprising. It seems a little tricky.
It's a crazy idea,
right.
but I can actually see how in a movie that is otherwise
it was seen as too
so
sensational,
authentic,
right?
Yeah, that this body bomb plot that then turns into him becoming like a vigilante briefly.
Yeah,
right.
I thought that was like a very interesting choice. I was wondering what you guys think about it.
Well, we will definitely get to that.
Oh, yeah, sorry.
I got a lot of hot takes on that.
Hot takes.
But I was reading through the Wikipedia page. I'll say, going into this series, my feeling was I think Hurt Locker is a very good movie. I think it's really solid.
Yeah.
It's cool that it won Best Picture, but a lot of that was sort of the context of
a little bit
the David versus the Goliath thing. But that's like a cool Best Picture winner in history.
Pretty surprising Best Picture winner.
Very surprising. And still is the lowest grossing Best Picture winner ever.
Yeah, and that's going to be hard to beat.
Ever.
Yeah.
And even unadjusted for inflation, most movies in the 60s and 50s outgrossed it.
Yeah.
Like you have to go back to like the 40s to find a Best Picture winner that makes less than.
Whoa.
And it's just
it ended up at 14, 16,
15, I think.
Yeah,
17. Sorry.
Like so low. I think it was 15 before the Oscars, and they re-released it for 2 weekends after that. It was already out on DVD, and then it went over to 17. But like fucking The Artist makes like 3 times as much as Hurt Locker, when the Hurt Locker is an action movie. And I know it was also
we'll talk about
a summer release.
It was an Iraq War
it didn't
movie,
have the Oscar bump because it was already out of theaters by then.
Yeah.
Right.
But it's an unconventional war movie. I mean, I think that's one of the reasons when I first watched it, I remember being very surprised because I thought that it was going to be about the like political setup of this war, like an art and more of an argument to it.
I got a lot of shit for saying, not a lot of shit, but it's a modicum of shit. I got some dingleberries for saying in our Dunkirk episode that Dunkirk was like an apolitical war movie, which feels impossible to make. People were like, well, there are obviously political elements. There's the sense of nationalism and how it's commenting on Brexit and all this sort of stuff. Which is like fine, but I think this movie falls in that same sort of category where it really is just like human character story within the setting of a war. It is not concerned with the larger implications of the war by and large.
It's not excessively concerned with it,
but it comes across as being very anti-war.
It does.
Ultimately,
like most war movies about the experience of
the
war
actual
are,
human toll of
war. But it also comes across as being anti-war despite being about like the most pro-war kind of guy in a weird way without being like
in a way.
Right, in a way.
But what I like about it is that he seems to have no ideology. He just is like
he's
strictly
this
above
guy.
the edge.
Yeah.
Yes. But this movie came after a run of everyone was trying to crack how do you make the modern war movie.
Right.
Here we are, we're like engaged in 2 wars. It's a fucking moral morass that we're all like swimming in. And there's just this series of war movies that don't fucking work.
Well, that's the thing. I was like, making an Iraq war movie was seen as unprofitable.
Right.
It's depressing.
None of them had done well at the Oscars.
Them.
Like, it had not worked critically or commercially.
Well, the contemporary Iraq War, because Three Kings is really a great film.
But I'd say
Three Kings is great, but did not make money.
From 2003 on.
But it is great.
Okay.
From 2003 on, they all fucking belly flop. You go like Jarhead, In the Valley of Allah, Stop Loss, Green Zone.
Yep.
Right.
Yep. Green Zone's after this, I think, but yeah.
Sure. You know,
no, but you're right. Body of Lies.
Right.
A movie my
Rendition.
parents really like, randomly.
Body of Lies is okay. It's a Ridley Scott action movie with Leo in it.
Mark
It's kind of
Strong's really good in
forgettable.
it. Yeah.
When's he bad?
Is Syriana about this war?
No, Syriana is about the 90s Gulf War.
But that's also-
certainly same, yes. Playing
It
in the
sort
same
of falls
pool.
into the MASH category where it's like about a previous war,
Which
but
is Jarhead
made
as
during
well.
the time.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, right. Jarhead is also a period piece, but the whole reason to make the movie at that point in time is to reflect upon the idea of war.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
And specifically war in the Middle
Now,
East.
of course, since this movie, and
Yeah.
again, this movie was not necessarily a hit,
No.
American Sniper came out. And that is now the money-making Iraq War movie.
And gets a
that
bunch
is
of fucking Oscar
a
nominations.
stirring-ish, fairly, it's not really a pro-war movie exactly, but it is certainly like a bit of a gung-ho masculine movie about a hero.
A hero.
I
Right.
still don't know what that movie is.
Yeah, well, I don't know. Clint Eastwood's weird.
Yeah.
Because he's made anti-war movies and
Correct.
he's made pro-war movies.
Correct.
He has a lot of perspective on
He's fetishized
battle.
violence. He's criticized violence.
Yeah.
He's recontextualized violence.
And I mean, he is just one of those directors who I think is like, I'm just making a movie over here. You know,
I saw it a second time just to see if I could fucking crack what it was doing, and I still don't know. There are elements of that movie I like a lot. There are elements of the movie that frustrate me. I don't know if there's any guiding
I think
philosophy
it's a
behind it.
well-acted film.
I agree
I'm not
with
a
that.
huge fan of that movie.
I'm not either.
And then there's also Lone Survivor, which is an Afghanistan movie.
but did very well.
Did do very well, and that movie is brutal and bad.
But both of those movies
Mark
come after
Wahlberg.
Hurt Locker.
Yeah, they
Hurt
do.
Locker was the one that reversed the curse.
It did.
In a way.
It did.
It was the New Adventures of Old Christine. It reversed the
Oh,
curse.
what a great show. What was the last episode of that called?
The
Old
Adventures of New Christine.
Obviously.
Okay, let's fucking
The
just
shaking
shake
on it,
hands and
shaking on
bet
it.
and just hope
pact.
and pray that we've nailed this. I've also been jinxing with guests a lot in recent episodes.
Oh, no.
And with me.
And with you. I'm happy. I feel like I'm really syncing with people.
We're still shaking our hands.
We're still shaking
For some reason, the last episode is called Get Smarter.
God damn it!
I don't know why. It may have just gotten canceled, though. Like, they may not have had an idea of, like, this is the finale, you know.
Maybe Don Adams was on the last episode.
Sure.
It was a Maxwell Smart Agent 99
Yeah.
crossover.
Probably, right? I don't know.
Hey, you yelled off mic, so I'm very proud of you.
Thank you.
Yelling off mic points.
Thank you.
So the Hurt Locker.
Right, a Best Picture winner. A defining film of the 21st century.
And you saw it in theaters?
No, I actually saw it like on a couch after it came out on DVD, I think.
But before the Oscars?
Probably
oh,
have to be
God.
out of
Actually,
by then.
I
Because
think
it was
I
a
might have
long
seen it
time
before.
between release and Oscar.
It was a July
You know.
release, and then, it
I
doesn't
think
win
I
till
actually
February.
watched it before because
Yeah.
I remember when she won, I was like happy. I was
Yeah.
like, oh, I also watched
It was a
fucking
good
Avatar,
moment.
Yeah,
and I'm
right.
glad that
Yeah.
that didn't win.
But that was the thing. It was so fully out of theaters and on home video that
Yeah.
it had no Oscar bump. You
Yeah.
know, like the box office was just fucking locked in, and then they re-released it to try to squeeze a couple more dollars out of it.
And that was, of course, the argument used to be it was really rare for there to be a Best Picture winner that wasn't a huge success. Like, even the more prestige movies, like your Schindler's Lists or whatever, they made a lot of money.
You
like
at least like, tapped
pre-Oscars.
100,
Yeah.
right?
And this was just not a movie that had done that. It had been like a bit of a success because no one expected anything of it.
Sure.
But it really did buck that trend.
and
that-
it was kind
yeah.
of the entree for Jeremy Renner, right?
Oh, 100%.
Right.
Mr. Householder
Yeah.
himself.
100%.
Yeah.
This is a genuine star-making performance because his career was not really going anywhere. I mean, he was working.
Yeah.
But he was not a guy of any real note before this. And then
Right.
overnight, he got 6 franchises.
Yeah.
5 of
they
which
really
didn't
tried
work.
to cram him into a lot of stuff.
Right.
Because he was 35 in this movie. You know, he'd been around.
And it comes out like 2 years after they've shot it. So by the time it comes out and he's getting the Oscar nom, he's like 37.
Wow.
And he'd been in some stuff, like he'd been in the assassination of Jesse James. He's in
Dahmer was the big thing, which wasn't a
North
big movie, but
Country,
people
I'm
said he
gonna
was
say
really good
He
in
was
that.
in Dahmer,
Yeah.
which is one of his first performances where he plays Jeffrey Dahmer,
Yeah.
which is a tough movie to watch
Yeah.
by any means,
I can
but
only
he is
imagine.
pretty good in it. And she had seen him in that and thought, this is my guy.
LIE, he's really good into.
Interesting, right?
Yeah.
God.
Long Island Expressway.
Mhm.
Yeah, he used to work on the Long Island Expressway doing road work, and he was really good.
That's like really interesting.
And then the other two stars, I mean, they weren't stars then, are Anthony Mackie, who had been in stuff. I mean,
he was
I know
the most high profile of the three at that point because he'd been in big movies.
He's in Half Nelson, which he's really good in.
8 Mile was his first film.
He's in 8 Mile. He was a supporting. He was like a guy. He wasn't like a star.
He was a guy in big movies
for sure.
He's a cutie too.
He's a very handsome guy.
This guy is.
He's handsome.
Fuego.
Yeah.
Hey, look, you give me a plate of Anthony macaroni and cheese, I'd eat it up.
Of course, now both of them are in Marvel movies,
along with Evangeline Lilly.
That's true.
This film has 3 Marvelers.
The Wasp.
And then Brian Garrity is the one who kind of doesn't pop after this.
And, he's well cast. He's
really good in this, I think.
I was telling David yesterday how much I liked him.
But, he was in Chicago PD.
He was in Flight, which he's pretty good
for
in.
him, though.
Sure.
Yeah, that's sweet for him.
Yeah.
But he's just kind of, and it's funny when you see someone's in Chicago PD, it means they were also been in Chicago Fire
All
and
of the
Chicago
Chicago's,
Med and Chicago Law
It's a
or
pretty
whatever.
good deal. I mean, you end up getting some good residuals if you get cast on one of them.
Yeah.
But it's funny that I guess he's well cast though. He's very well cast.
Very well cast.
Yeah.
And so they she casts these guys.
Yeah.
But to go back further.
Sorry.
She meets Mark Bull.
She does this TV show.
Who's a freelance journalist who had been embedded with a bomb squad.
Decides to shift to Tinseltown.
Right. They had worked together on The Inside, which was this TV show that didn't come together. Tim Minear show.
What was The Inside about?
It was also based on one of his articles. What was it about? It was Tim Minear, Howard Gordon.
Wow.
It was inside the work of FBI's Los Angeles Violent Crimes Unit.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
Sounds great.
But she developed it, shot the pilot, and then they picked it up and redeveloped it, reshot, fired her.
Yeah,
right?
it made it a little more boring, I think.
Yeah.
Rachel Nichols, Adam Baldwin, Katie Finneran, Nelson Ellis, Peter Coyote. This is a good cast.
Good actors.
Tim Minear,
what
Tim Minear's good.
Had it?
Fox?
CBS.
Oh.
CBS?
Wow. I was expecting something prestige-y.
No,
I was
expecting.
So that's interesting, though.
But it was just, 2002, it didn't, whatever. It aired 13 episodes, and then that's that.
But it's the start of Biggie Bull.
Bull. Yeah, Mark
Biggie
Bull.
Bull.
Biggie Bull. Okay.
Biggie Bull. Biggie Bull.
Now, Mark Bull, who I think is her often the biggest hindrance to her movies, now that they are collaborators, right? Each of her movies, I would say the screenplay is often what slows me down the most.
Do you feel that way about this film?
Yes.
Interesting.
What do you feel is the biggest?
I think the script's really good
about this film. Yeah.
I think this is his best script by far.
I was ready to, because we've already recorded our Zero Dark 30 in Detroit episodes, feel like the bloom was off the rose a little bit and come back to this one looking at the screenplay a little more clear-eyed and seeing more of his tricks, which sometimes happens. When a writer comes on the scene and they're hot and they got a new voice, and then you see them do it 5 more times and you're like, oh, I get it now. It's not that impressive. I see the machinery of your one routine you do.
Yeah.
I'm feeling some of that with the good old Taylor Sheridan these days.
Yeah, for sure.
Where I'm like, I'm now retroactively less impressed with some of those earlier screenplays because I feel like you got one story you keep on telling.
Yeah.
He wrote Sicario and he wrote
Hell or High Water and then Wind River.
Wind River.
Which is a very interesting counterpoint to Jeremy Renner's performance in this movie, I think.
Sure.
But I think the script's really fucking strong. And
I think the first half of the script is really strong. And then the second half, I have a little bit of trouble with. But everything else I like.
I like the whole script.
I think that's interesting. I think that if you separate it into quarters, I think first quarter, second quarter, and fourth quarter are great.
Oh, sure. Yes,
and I think the third quarter is where things get hairy.
But you're talking about the Beckham sort of revenge stuff?
I am talking about the body bomb to the vigilante invasion of the house.
What I'm thinking
which I think is the most problematic element.
That was my least favorite part of the film. I have a take on it now. We'll get to it when we get to it.
We're gonna talk about our takes.
But I think this is a very unconventional screenplay. I mean, this is like the kind of screenplay that any fucking film school would tell you not to write because it's very episodic, right? I mean, there's no real narrative propulsion. It's like a series of different missions.
Yeah.
And it becomes a character piece, but the characterization and how they build those characters is pretty unconventional.
Yeah.
Because you never have the big confession scenes. You never have the crazy backstory. You get little bits and pieces here. But it's a lot of just behavioral stuff that just kind of stacks up on top of each other.
Yes.
But it's one of those movies where you could rearrange the major set pieces of this film in any order you want.
Well,
certainly the first few.
Yeah. There's no continuity to them.
Right,
there's a build to it that works in terms of
just
storytelling.
like, what do we got now? Okay.
Right. I mean, it's interesting because I feel like the arc is actually less present for him because he's kind of a constant. Right. And then it's really the other characters trying to get the fuck out that have a sort of sense of like urgency as you build towards their last days.
Right. Like it's a movie about one guy who only knows how to exist in war and he teaches two other people that they shouldn't be in the war anymore.
Right. Yeah.
Like they see him and they're like, fuck, this isn't for me.
So sad. One of the things my sister was saying a few times, and I was sort of building on this with her, is that like each of them is a different kind of veteran. Like that there is like, which is not to say those are the only three kinds, but you know, that like she like has heard the story of the guy who's so fucking scared, like and like keeps like Owen like keeps blaming himself for the thing he didn't do. And then the person who just is like, I have to like leave and like start my own life because this is like broken me. And then there's also the person that doesn't know how to function unless they're in that space. And like these experiences are all present in this place and like come out. Yeah.
Well, and I walk.
For sure.
I walk away from this film feeling like Garrity is going to have a much easier time readjusting and processing everything than Mackie.
He's going to be like, that was bad.
Yeah.
It made me feel bad.
And he was very in touch with his emotions the entire time he was there. He understands the stakes and the enormity of it.
But he also gets James.
Right.
From he nails him by the end. Or he like where he says that line, that scene I think is so good.
Yeah.
Where he's like, for your fucking adrenaline fix. And then he's able to turn to Mackie and be like, get home safe, man. Like smiles and like the whole thing.
Yeah,
and it's like the switch and you're like, he's fine. He's figured it out.
Meanwhile, Mackie, in what I think is his best moment when he gives his final speech about needing to leave.
Yes.
And he breaks down crying.
Oh, it's so good.
What's amazing, I think, about that performance is he does not look physically like he's crying at all.
Yeah.
It's one of those things where like it's suddenly just like the piping broke.
Yeah.
And water is just streaming down his face, but he's just like talking clinically.
And he's trying to keep it together, right?
Right. And it's like, oh, this guy's fucked. This guy is fucked. He's going to go back home to the woman he loves, and he's going to raise a child, and he's going to be a doting father. He's never going to be complete. Right. I, not to tip hand, for the next episode after this one, but in my mind, I had, filed away, okay, Zero Dark 30 is her like stone cold masterpiece.
Oh, wow.
Hurt Locker is like a pretty good movie.
Oh, interesting.
And what I was very surprised by on rewatching was Zero Dark 30 I now degrained to like a very good movie. I think A Movie Promise a very good movie. I think this is like a fucking masterpiece.
Yeah,
I agree.
I would agree with that too.
I agree. And
I did watch Zero Dark 30 in theaters because I liked this movie so much, and I did feel a little bit like.
See, at the time, Zero Dark 30, I was like 100% like fucking knocked out, and I was like, this is the movie that like I feel like I wanted Hurt Locker to be. And now rewatching it, a lot of that movie jars for me. I still think it's very good, but with some major issues. And this for me was just like, even the stuff I could argue doesn't really work. It's, I was talking to someone last night who said to me, I think the thing about movies is no movie is perfect, but the movies you love are the movies where you love and accept their flaws.
That's a good call.
Right? And it's like, with this, there are like things I could pinpoint, but it's also like the whole piece of this thing just works so fucking well.
I agree. I also think that this is, for us, I certainly felt this way, a great movie to see after you just watched every single Catherine Bigelow movie.
Literally the last one we're watching chronologically.
Yes, after you just watch essentially all of her movies in 3 weeks. Right. Like...
We record all this very fast because I'm getting on a plane. I'm hiding out in Europe for a month.
Yeah, but then we're bringing you back.
Asshole.
Yeah.
Why are you going to hide out in Europe?
Because I need to decompress. I've been so stressed out.
Oh my God. You're like a privileged actor person.
I am. Now I get to do that. No, I get to do that.
Oh my God.
I haven't gone on a vacation in forever because I always was like, what if I get on a plane? I miss a job. I don't want to go to Minneapolis for 2 days. And now I'm like, let me just go to Europe and sit in a cafe and read a book.
Oh my God. I'm so proud of you, Griffin. You made it.
I'm a fucking asshole.
You made it. Now you can have your nervous breakdowns in private.
Exactly. I'm going to have a private nervous breakdown in Europe.
Okay, great.
Well,
David's bored.
I'm going to be like Jessica Chastain on the plane at the end of Zero Dark 30.
I've heard all about his Paris.
My Paris excursion.
His Paris.
My sabbatical.
Hey, Ben, how you doing?
I'm good. So I watching most of Bigelow's movies and then, seeing this last night again.
Didn't watch Detroit.
I didn't.
It's okay.
Spoiler alert.
That's easy pass.
But I saw this movie in a different way.
Yes.
Because I feel like Renner, when I first saw it, I was like, this guy is badass. This guy's crazy.
Sure.
I kind of didn't like him as much.
I don't think.
He was so flawed to me this time around.
Yeah.
I think that's what's good about this movie, but I think that's what's good about all her movies, or certainly Point Break, the movies that are most about like men doing male things.
And this is
I was
her
telling
most,
Sonia this already, is that she allows you to like the person as a flawed individual. Maybe it's not like she's like, this is a bad person, look at the bad person,
or this is a hero,
but she is very upfront about what is wrong here.
And this is her most literal presentation of masculinity and machismo. Her other films about masculinity are far more heightened, and this is like this is
about a real thing,
right? And this is when she adopts this sort of documentary style.
Yes.
I mean, this movie was shot all on 16 millimeter, which is crazy because a year later it would not have been.
Probably not. Yeah.
And they always had like at least 3 cameras rolling, oftentimes 4 or 5.
4 usually, yeah.
And the crazy stat about this movie is this movie has the like craziest footage shot to footage used ratio in film history. They said it was like 100-1.
Wow.
In terms of just getting so much fucking footage.
Wow.
Because she wanted to just have all these different angles, these camera operators going around all these different sides and do this crazy editing. And she had this quote that I'm going to fucking misrepresent now as I try to pull it up. But a lot of people, I think, adopt this style just because they go like, oh, it's like fucking Bourne. It's cool. It's cool to make the like shaky cam like fucking intense
shot by
thing.
Barry Ackroyd, who shoots the Bourne.
Is the green grass guy. Yeah. But she had this whole fucking take on why that needed to be the style for the movie, which is she felt like that was the way to present the way human beings process things in real time, especially like visual information, especially in a heightened
all around
state like that, where you're simultaneously conscious of the micro and the macro.
Mm-hmm.
And that if you make a shot and you hold on it, you're trying to draw the viewer's attention to one thing, the way you compose your shot, right? Ideally, there's some sort of center of it, either by framing or by action or whatever it is.
But you're like bombarded by shit.
Right. In this, she's like, and she's going between wide shots and close-ups and super close-ups and insert, all this fucking shit. That's what she wants to do. And it feels very intentional.
It's masterful, I have to say, because I think that like one of the things that, and again, it was fun to watch it with Tanya, who hadn't seen it before and she didn't know what was going to happen, is that it's like, she's like, what happened? Did they have the phone? Did they not have the phone? Did the phone make it go off?
Right.
And I'm like, we don't know.
Yeah.
Like, we literally have no idea.
Like,
and that's going to be the takeaway of every scene, that we don't know what actually happened.
Her line is, that's how we experience reality, by looking at the microcosm and the macrocosm simultaneously. The eyes see differently than the lens, but with multiple focal lengths and a muscular editorial style, the lens can give you that microcosm, macrocosm perspective, and that contributes to the feeling of total immersion, which is a boss fucking statement.
Muscular, I love
hardcore.
that.
She's so hardcore.
We talk about this a lot on the Strange Days episode, but we should talk about it again. This movie shot in Jordan near the Iraq border because she wanted to get as close as she could to Iraq. She could not shoot in Iraq because the war was going on.
Yeah.
Average temperature on our shooting day was 120 degrees.
120 degrees.
Wow.
She recruited mostly Iraqi refugees who were living in Jordan to
be the crew.
stand-ins and to be the onlookers and the extras, and the actor in the very crucial scene at the end is an Iraqi actor.
Oh man,
that's
so fucking boss.
Really intense scene.
Even looking at the crew, like the number of Arabic names,
right.
that was so fucking credits. Satisfying to me. Like just seeing that there's like I think one of the things that really comes through in the film is how much she wanted to like honor the experience, like not just necessarily like capture it or interpret it, but like actually like herself wanted to understand it, which I think is I'm always going to have respect for that, you know.
I think that's fair. I think that's right, and I do think she's drawing that from Bull, who, flaws aside, is a journalist and he likes to draw from real sources to make these things and yada yada yada. So they shot it in Jordan. They made it for $15 million. It was an independent film. It premiered at Venice and did pretty well. It hopped over to Toronto. This is in 2008.
Right, exactly.
So, and then it gets picked up by Summit. Not a huge company, but Twilight was big. Like Twilight had come out that year?
Yes. It was right. I guess Twilight was about to come out.
Twilight comes out.
Imagine your two movies.
It comes out that November.
Twilight and The Hurt Locker.
No, but Twilight comes out that November.
Right.
So they purchased it before Twilight. They buy it for only $1.5 million, which is definitely less than they wanted considering it cost $15 million. And then they don't release it until the following summer. So there's that weird thing with this movie where it gets nominated for Spirit Awards the year before it wins the Oscar.
Right.
It doesn't get a Best Director nomination.
This is all true.
Despite her winning the Oscar.
At the Spirits, you mean.
Right. Tom McCarthy wins Best Director for The Visitor.
Really?
Yeah, which is fucking weird. The Wrestler wins Best Picture.
Oh, right.
Aronofsky wasn't even nominated for Director either.
The Indie Spirits are
and Mackie and Renner are nominated for Best Actor and Best Supporting Actor. And then the following year, when it sweeps the Oscars, it isn't nominated at the Spirits because that sometimes will happen. Where if a movie's,
they champion a little movie that hasn't even come out, maybe.
But it speaks to how low everyone's expectations for the movie were. If a movie has a big festival run, they don't think it's going to get a big theatrical release. They'll nominate it at the Spirits after the festival run.
The most amount of screens this was on.
450.
No, you're a little higher. 535. In its 7th week, that was at the height of its expansion, which is not very large. And then,
and it never
like
cracked the
a wide
top 10,
release is
right?
like 2,000, 3,000.
Yeah.
I assumed you know.
Yeah. No. I
but
appreciate
for the listener as well.
You're saying it to the listester, but you also stared Sonia dead in the eyes.
No, but he's not wrong. I don't always know these things.
Can I read some stats here from the Wikipedia on the production?
Okay.
Jeremy Renner says he got food poisoning.
Right, I saw
lost
that.
15 pounds in 3 days. The bomb suit, when he's in the full bomb suit, weighs 100 pounds. So imagine you're in 120 degree heat. You put on that suit, which had an extra 100 pounds, and probably adds an extra 100 degrees onto your body temperature, right? When he's carrying Beckham down the stairs, the body, he twisted his ankle and couldn't walk. Filming shut down, right? They said at that point, direct quote, people wanted to quit. All the departments were struggling to get their job done. None of them are communicating. A week later, filming resumed. They couldn't get most of the guns they wanted into Jordan. So the props guy had to build weapons like overnight. Like he was working like 14-hour days to try to build the weapons for them.
Jesus.
They used Chinese fireworks because they couldn't have gunpowder.
Oh my
So they
God.
had fireworks loaded into all the guns. One day he was assembling a prop and the heat and friction caused the fireworks to blow up in his face. 2 days later, he returned to work.
It's one of those movies
No
where,
trailers, no private bathrooms.
Right.
Everyone was like apparently losing their minds on this fucking movie and threatening to quit all the time. Every single department.
Oh my God.
Everybody was losing it.
Oh my God.
And it's one of those movies where now that it's basically the best movie that almost everyone who worked on it has ever worked on.
Yeah.
So like Mackie or Renner would
The
be like,
career defining.
it was a really tough shoot. It was really tough.
Yeah.
I'm glad we made it. You
Yeah,
know, it's like
yeah,
it's not like one of
yeah.
those things where you're like, you know what, we had a lot of fun, even though it was like there was a lot of camaraderie.
Right.
They're just like, it was really, really tough. It was tough.
Renner
they
says-
don't really beat around it.
But it kind of makes sense too, because the film is about a really tough place.
It contributes.
And maybe it right? Yeah.
Right. Like if making my best friend's wedding was this tough, the movie would probably suffer.
It would feel a little different, right?
But he says, he's got this quote where he says, there were 2x4s with nails being dropped from 2-story buildings that hit me in the helmet and they were throwing rocks. These are just civilians, right, in Jordan. We got shot at a few times when we were filming by real people.
What the shit?
Renner said, when you see it, you're going to feel like you've been in war. And like that sums it up pretty well, which is like they had a fucking nightmare experience, but it all translates on screen.
Yeah.
Because these guys just look so fucking worn out in every single shot in a way you kind of can't fake. I don't care how good an actor you are. There's something just about like these 3 actors being so fucking committed to these parts, being real pros, but also being at their fucking wits' end. Like looking physically and mentally and emotionally depleted.
Except for Renner, right? Who's having a fucking great time.
Which is why I think he's so. But what I like about him is he's not a cowboy, like if that makes sense. Like he's not like yee-hawing. He's just genuinely unflappable.
Yeah.
Like to the extent that when people are like trying to pump him up too, he's just kind of like, no, whatever, man. Like, I guess so.
Well,
you know,
he is flappable.
Well,
but
he is
in a
eventually,
very
right,
specific
yes,
situations,
in
right?
very specific
but you're
situations.
right. Yes, he's
But in-
very like affectless. Most
right? Because like when he's doing wild shit, they're like, "Holy shit, what are you doing?" And he's like, "Don't worry about it. It's gonna be fine.
This is
It's
just
gonna be fine."
yeah.
And
Okay,
that opening scene where he points the gun at the cab,
Oh man.
he's so nonchalant.
Yeah.
Not only is it nonchalant that he's pointing the gun at him, it's nonchalant when he starts threatening him and shooting at the cab, shooting outside the cab to try and get him to go. It's like he's just like, here's a problem. I'll try and deal with it. You know, like.
So affectless is the word I want to get to here. Not to gang up on this movie, but just because it's the recent Jeremy Renner counterpoint. But I was like so frustrated watching Wind River because the entire time I was like, don't let Renner go full cowboy. Like they let him lean into it too much, and he's staring off in the middle distance and squinting, going, "You know, the thing they say about revenge is, you know,
it's a lot of that." I actually kind of wanted Wind River to just be more of a Western, though. Like that, I was like, "Snow Western, give me Snow Western."
Sure.
And then it turns into this like revenge
I got issues with that
drama,
movie. Right.
Yeah.
But you watch this, Ben would probably love it.
But then
That sounds great.
It kind of has this last act turn that I just couldn't.
Is there like a skiing thing?
There's a lot of snowmobiling. A lot of snowmobiling.
Snowmobile is his horse.
Oh, for fuck's sake!
Yeah, Ben, you'll love it.
He's like, it's one of he works for the Department of Fisheries, and an early question that Elizabeth Olsen asks him is like, "What do you do?" And he's like, "I kill predators." Because his job is to like shoot predators who would attack animals.
It's also a movie
on the prairie
about a white man who knows the land of the Native Americans better than the Native Americans.
Yes, and he refers to them as his people, his family, because he has a Native American son.
So is the river made of wind? Or
It's a Wind River Native American Reservation. It's a real place in Wyoming. That's what it's named after.
My point is the thing rewatching this movie, because when this came out, I hadn't seen Dahmer, but I had seen Renner and some other stuff, and never was really crazy about him. I remember he was the one guy in Jesse James I wasn't totally on board with.
He would often really be amped, like very high.
He felt a little
in
extra.
These small roles. Felt a little extra.
There's a little bit of that Ben Foster thing where it's like, you can take it down a notch. You don't need to do that much. He's trying to win most acting, you know? And I saw him in this and went, geez, he is so fucking unaffected in this. There is no affectation whatsoever. This is like this kind of really straight shot, honest American leading man that we don't have right now. That like James Cagney line about like you hit your mark, you look the guy in the eyes, and you speak the truth.
But it's funny because that disaffectation is like sociopathic, and I'm not trying to use too many psychological terms, but it is so interesting
for this character.
She sees 100%. Him in Dahmer.
Yes.
She sees him playing Jeffrey Dahmer, and she's like, "I know, I'm going to make you a fucking war hero."
Right.
And what does that mean? You know, like being that person.
And why was she drawn to him?
Right. She casts Mackie. She said off of Half Nelson, where he plays
He's
like
great
an incredibly charming drug dealer who's trying to like completely subvert this young girl. Yeah. And I forget what she said. She cast Garrity off of. I think Jarhead. I think he was in Jarhead. But she cast two guys playing like criminal roles to play the two heroes of your movie. You know?
He is in Jarhead, yeah.
She understands like how twisted both of these guys are.
But it's funny. I have so many feelings about that too, because I feel like it's not even that she's saying that these boys are twisted. And I say boys because I feel like there's a sense in which she cares about them.
Let's say the word. Say what she's not saying.
She said, well, I don't even know what you think I'm going to say now, because I sort of feel
twisted.
Like it's for fuck's sake. I sort of feel like it becomes this narrative about like what war means and what war does to people. One of the things that I really love, like, and we were talking about this, we're talking about Will James, Jeremy Renner's character, in the context of cowboys or in the context of American heroes. But what I was actually thinking was that this character, this like blood crazed warrior, is like this universally human character that you could point to throughout history, like someone who has a wife and family and goes back and like cannot relate to the domestic sphere anymore. Sure,
and it applies to the Western, to the samurai film, to any sort of archetype of the warrior in any culture, in any time period.
I was thinking about, you know how in Gladiator, how he's like obsessed with his wife and kid? And it's like funny how this guy is like kind of the perfect Roman warrior because he doesn't fucking care about his wife and kid. He wants to be in Germania forever, or wherever it is forever. I just thought that was so interesting. Like, it's almost like she's saying war is this thing that that needs this person like this.
Yes.
In order to
war
exist.
Is a drug.
100%.
Chris Hedges.
Yeah.
And what's interesting about this guy is that he doesn't seem to be looking for any of the sort of glory or the acclaim, you know?
Yeah, he just can only work like this.
Right, like something like American Sniper, which is so much about how Chris Kyle became this like fucking legend within the military, out of the military. He just is this guy that like he doesn't really have a reputation that precedes him.
But think about it, like in American Sniper, the whole mystique about Chris Kyle is he has the most confirmed kills of any sniper ever, right? It's some number. I can't remember what it is.
Right.
And then there's the scene in this movie, which is my favorite scene in the whole movie, when David Morse, one of her great one-scene actors in this movie,
of which there are 3,
comes up and he's like, how many kills? How many kills? And he's like, I don't know. He's like, come on, how many? And he says, what is like 800 something.
60,
and he's like, hardcore. You're a wild man.
You're
a wild man. And Renner's like, yeah, I guess so. You know, like he's not allowing himself to be like,
the
yeah.
first
But he also knows the exact number.
He knows the exact number.
the exact number.
It's not kills. It's missions.
disarmament.
Missions.
It's
No, I mean, I meant not kills. I meant,
Bombs.
bombs.
Yeah.
Right. But he's just like, you're a wild man.
And
You're
the
a
funny
wild
thing
man.
is, he doesn't want to. Like Tanya said this. She was like, he didn't want to tell anyone. He didn't want anyone to know that.
Exactly.
And I
it's
love
like
that
his little
too.
thing of
His,
bombs,
like, weird
things.
fucking
his
box
little
of
collection.
trophies.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He does it for the love of doing it. Like that's what's weird about this guy.
Right.
Well,
right.
and
And
also-
he knows it's weird.
It's
enough
like-
to not
but-
say.
He
But
feels
it's-
that shame over how reliant he is on this thrill.
It's also like a conversation he's having with a person who's not there. Because,
Yes.
I mean, part of
Yes.
what's great about these scenes, in my opinion, the bomb scenes,
Yes.
is that there's no villain. Like we're saying, maybe there's someone who's lurking
Right.
over there. Maybe they have a camcorder. Maybe they have a cell phone, but
they're
we
like
don't even
puzzle
know.
scenes.
But the villain is the machine.
The villain is
Right.
right, and the villain is nowhere, right? But
Yeah.
the villain is everywhere and could go off at any time. It's a very good metaphor for what
Yeah.
weird quagmire wars that we get ourselves
Sure.
dragged into.
Yeah.
But there's no villain. But he is kind of like, what were you thinking though making this? Like,
Right.
especially when he's in the car, he's like, not in the man, you know, like,
Yeah.
And the more mysterious it gets for him, the more intrigued he is by it. And then when he finally gets his little switch or whatever, he's like, oh yeah, there
Yeah.
you go, you know.
There's
Yeah.
a certain appreciation of the craft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Of the bombs that
Which
he's
makes
trying
sense
to-
for a man whose job is undoing craft, I guess.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
like
And there's something
and I
about
love
like,
that earlier
yeah.
scene where he pulls out the battery for the first bomb scene.
Sure.
And the guy who's probably the trigger man is running away and he's just like, look, I got it.
He shows it to him.
Yeah.
Oh my
he doesn't
god.
even care about the guy.
Yeah.
He probably
doesn't care
knows
about the
that's
guy.
the trigger man. He
Oh my
doesn't care.
God.
He's just like, I got it.
And when he's pointing the gun at the guy in the cab, and I feel like when I was watching this, because it's like, so it's your first scene,
Yeah.
really, where you're looking at like a guy, like
Right.
an Iraqi person, presumably, who may or may not have something to do with this.
Mm-hmm.
You're looking at him in the face. He's got the gun, like he's pointing it at him. He doesn't kill him, right?
No.
You stare at him. You, the audience, are wondering what the fuck is going through this guy's head.
And
that
we
he
know nothing
drove
about William
a
James.
cab
Right, yeah,
into this intersection is just fucking stranded. He backs up, and William James says, if that guy wasn't an insurgent before, he is now. And I
Yeah.
was like, he doesn't care.
Right.
He doesn't
Doesn't care.
care,
He doesn't give a
about
fuck.
about who the bad guy is. Like, that's crazy to me. Like, I don't even know.
But what
That's
good
nuts.
fucking character building. Like immediately
Yes.
from the first scene of this movie,
Right.
you're like, I need to lean in and figure out who this guy is.
Yes.
Right. But
Oh, man.
But we
And-
should talk about the first scene. But no, sorry.
Yeah.
if you
Well,
wanna
no,
say
just
something.
I was about to say
This
the
movie-
comparison
yes.
between Guy Pearce
Yep,
doing
so
that.
yep.
The structure
And
is
this movie
just so
does
perfect.
a beautiful fucking Drew Barrymore in Scream, especially because at the time of this movie, Jeremy Renner's not well known. Anthony Mackie's one of those that guys. They're
Sure,
bigger
he's been
now.
around, but yeah.
But you're going into the film, and I remember there was, I mean, they included a good amount of both like Guy Pearce and Ray Fiennes in the trailer,
Yes,
if I remember
and-
correctly, because
Yeah.
they were like, here are the two faces people will know. We'll
Yeah.
put them in the trailer so
Yeah.
you feel comfortable.
Yeah.
Right.
But both of those guys
Die
have
so fast.
one scene,
Yeah.
die in 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
But the movie starts out with Guy Pearce, and he's doing a very classical kind of like hero soldier kind of
The
performance.
way he's talking about everything. Yes. No, you're totally right.
And he's got some good jokes, some
Yeah.
good one-liners,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
he's fucking handsome as
He's
shit.
great. He's
a li-
fucking
He's a little
charming.
bantery. They all
Right.
love him.
And
Right.
you're like, right, this is the lead of this war movie.
Right,
I
right.
totally get the movie I'm watching right
she
now.
fucking kills the shit out of him as soon as she can. It's so good. I mean, because
It's a good scene too.
Yeah.
And to-
Because
Yeah,
you're
go-
with them right
Yeah.
away.
Yeah,
like,
yeah,
you're
yeah.
like, I think it's good what they're doing.
oh my
you know?
god!
And then
the-
she's like,
and the
well,
guy with the cell phone in the butcher shop, and you're like so focused on him, and you're like, what did he do? Did he do anything? And then also at the same time, what a fucking indictment of war
Mm-hmm.
this turns into so quickly that you're like, look how fucking awful this is. They don't know what they're doing. They have
Yeah.
this shit ass robot that is supposed to go do this stuff for them. Like, what are we doing here? Is like the first feeling out of the movie.
I'll
I
say this too. I know, David, you said that, Bigelow's gone like, I wasn't in jail. I wasn't unable to make a film. I was doing other stuff. But there is a sense of this movie where it's like, this is my chance to make it count again, you know?
for sure.
Like,
Yeah,
I
yeah,
lost
She
whatever
wants to make
momentum I
her
had
movie.
in the 90s. She hits the ground running. And this movie just, like, from minute one, you can tell she's like, I'm going to make this count.
It's like a defiant movie, right?
Yes. There
Yeah.
are very few movies I've seen build a sense of tension and dread this immediately. Like, from, like, second 15, the movie's tight as a drum, and you're like fucking on edge.
You can't look away. Like it's very engrossing.
Like this is someone who has to leave it all on the field.
And as someone who is like addicted to my phone, for me to say like I can't look away, that means something.
Look away from this movie.
Like,
and it
really
doesn't matter how many
hard
times
to.
you've seen it. It doesn't matter if you're watching it.
Very
like,
compelling.
I was like watching a chunk of it like on my fucking iPad in a bagel shop, and I was just stop talking. I'm watching The Hurt Locker.
Why were you doing that?
Because I fell asleep watching it last night, and then I had a dentist appointment early this morning, so I had to watch the second half of it.
How was the dentist?
Good. I have a protruding gum flap.
Oh, interesting.
I have like gum
Is
that's...
that something you've always had, or is it a new thing?
There's like...
Let's get into it.
So they removed like 3 of my wisdom teeth like 4 years ago, but there's one they didn't remove because it's right on a nerve, and they were like, there's a 15% chance if we take it out, it'll cause a Stallone.
Oh, what?
Sylvester Stallone?
You'll have like a Stallone kind of like, you know, or best case scenario, like a Ruffalo
like
kind
a dropped
of,
mouth
a
type
little bit of a
thing?
droop.
Yeah, so no.
Right.
No, thank you.
Right. So they didn't remove it, but then what's been happening now is my gum has been like growing over the wisdom tooth that hasn't been removed.
Oh.
So shit gets caught under
Why
there.
do we have these things?
Teeth? Get rid of them.
Dumb. I think it's so dumb that we have wisdom teeth.
Yeah.
Some people have evolved to not
teeth.
have them anymore.
Sure.
Yeah,
Wisdom
which
teeth,
is obnoxious.
More like the dumbest teeth.
They're dumb.
I think they're dumb.
Okay,
Ben, fucking answer the question. Why do we have wisdom teeth?
Oh,
some leftover, right?
yeah, some leftover shit.
From like prehistoric.
Like, because we probably had to fucking chew the shit out of some raw ass meat.
Well, and probably you would have fucked up a lot of your teeth before then by that point.
Yeah, right.
And
They're
so
like
you
backups.
need your 30-year-old tooth.
It's the extra tire in the
we
trunk.
have our tailbones too, you know?
Yeah.
I just
Why
actually,
use that,
I just
though?
was talking about this. Hey, our teeth fall out as kids and then grow
Yeah, that
back.
sucks.
That's crazy.
That
teeth-
fucking sucks.
Why is
Teeth
that
are
a
so
thing?
fucked up. It's like, yeah.
They're like, I was reading fingernails, you know, they're like horns. It's the same process.
Oh.
You know? We're just
wish
weird.
I had horns.
Bodies are weird.
Bodies are really weird. It's
Animal
true.
and...
I just want to say this on the record. My one remaining wisdom tooth is literally the least intelligent tooth in my body.
dumbass too.
It's fucking everything up and showing no remorse. And I keep on going like, what are you doing? It's like, what, me? This fucking dumb tooth.
Yep.
Fucking up my mouth, making me watch Hurt Locker in a bagel shop.
Guy Pearce dies.
Guy Pearce dies.
Very quickly. And
Owen could have saved him, but he doesn't. So
Owen
he thinks,
could have shot the guy with the cell phone.
Oh, and this introduces another very interesting character, I think. The fucking army therapist, the army psychologist.
Christian Camargo.
Cambridge.
Who we all know as the Ice Truck Killer. That's all I know him as, really.
I don't know who this guy is either.
He's in Dexter season 1. He's sort of the big bad
Never
of
watched
Dexter
Dexter.
The
season 1.
inclusion of this guy is so interesting, right?
Yes.
The inclusion of him and of David Morse as these authorities who have no fucking clue what's actually happening.
Right. And one
Yeah.
is a little more of a gung-ho asshole, and one of them
Right.
is more of a like, no, we're here. I mean, the
Supposed
scene
to be.
of Christian Camargo's character interacting with the citizens, where he's like, very nice country, very nice. This area is a little dangerous if you want to move. And he's talking to someone who is putting rocks into a wheelbarrow. Like, the guy knows it's dangerous.
Well, remember he
is
says to
moving
Owen
rubble around. Yeah.
in his first, yes, and in his first scene, he says to Owen, "The army could be the best time of your life." Like,
yeah,
this-
he's trying to be like, look, think of it as an adventure, and you're in a new place.
And like
you know.
on one hand, of course, he has to say that
Sure,
because
right.
he's fucking. And on the other hand, I wanted to punch him in the face.
Well, it's sort of
I was
like-
so disgusted.
It's like if your sister sucked, like, you know, but like the way, like he's viewing it like he's watching a movie about people in war.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, what an interesting like psychological condition he's got
Right.
there. What an interesting coping mechanism.
Right.
This could be really interesting for you if you like are able to process it later. And it's
Yeah.
like, fuck you. Like I'm in the midst of this shit.
And the fact that he's literally named Cambridge.
Right.
That he's named
Right.
Cambridge, and then
He went to
Owen
Yale,
says,
yeah.
like, oh, when was
Or
that
Harvard,
at
yeah,
Yale?
wherever.
Right.
Right.
And it's like, I don't know. That to
Well,
me,
also,
that's such a crucial veteran
this is
dynamic.
well, sure, but this is also a movie about enlisted officers, and he is not. He's an officer, not.
Right,
I mean, he's
right.
an officer about enlisted, soldiers.
Right.
Because even Renner, who is the highest ranked, he's a staff sergeant. They are all enlistees.
Right.
Yeah.
And I don't even know if he's being an asshole. I think he is just demonstrating the absolute like shallow
Cluelessness.
pool
Yeah. He's
they
glib.
have
Yeah.
to draw from.
He's glib.
He's
Matt,
not.
do you know how glib that is?
I don't know what
You're
that
glib,
is.
Matt. It's Tom Cruise's Scientology interview with
Oh, yeah,
Matt
right,
Lauer.
right, yes,
You're
yeah,
glib,
yeah,
Matt.
yeah,
You don't even understand how glib you sound right now.
No, he is
said
glib.
glib
but
like 20
I think
times.
it's also it's like he has that's his best weapon to draw when Brian Garrity is venting his real complaints. He's
Yeah.
like, yeah, no, I know, but think about it. You're in a different country.
Yeah.
You know, like that's the best he can come up with.
But it's like a school guidance counselor telling you that like those kids picking on you are building character for the future.
Well, okay. Look, clearly you have a lot of axes to grind against a lot of school guidance counselors. All right. So Guy Pearce's character dies. It's very traumatic, and I think it is very powerful how powerful it is given you only have 10 minutes with him. Like you feel his loss,
Yes,
right?
and Bigelow pulls a couple jazz hands camera moves at the end of this where she does the super slow motion shots of the rust.
The things fall. Oh,
that stuff's unbelievable.
The blood in the helmet also really gets me.
Which is like a flash. You know, you don't linger on it.
Because most of the film is 16 millimeter. Those couple of shots feel very high resolution. They feel like they went to 35 or shot on digital or whatever, but it's super slowed down. And you're seeing the effects of these bombs in like real time, which like obviously an explosion is an explosion.
Right, yeah.
But to
it was
see that micro kind of like result makes you understand the actual impact of what these things
I also
are capable
didn't
of.
realize. I'm sorry, I interrupt.
No, that was the end of my point.
But like, I also didn't realize, as someone who doesn't know a ton about explosions and also only sees TV explode, like or like dumb sort of flashy explosions in our pop culture, that like that he could die from like. Sure. Does that make sense? I didn't realize that he could be that far away and something would blow up and he could still die. And I actually thought that was really useful too, just in terms of establishing what the stakes were too. That it's not going to look like what you're used to seeing.
And also, I think their reaction to when he dies, where you don't have any like platoon drop to the knees, like cry up at the heavens thing.
Yeah.
Like they were just buddy with this guy. This guy feels like the lead of the movie, and now he dies, and they're like, oh, fuck.
They go to that like box, like
it's
that
a
shoe
bummer,
box that he's in.
Mackie throws the dog tags in. But just kind of like they probably lost like 6 guys like this. Sometimes above them, sometimes below them, you know?
Yeah.
So.
Now in comes
cut almost immediately
Jamesy.
Right after that one scene to James.
Now my brother, the officer.
In the first Jamesy. In the first scene, he's pretty nice where he's like, I'm sorry about your guy. I'm not trying to replace him. I'm just here, you know.
Handles it exactly the way you're supposed to.
Introduced listening to new metal, right?
He's listening to new metal.
Yeah. Is it Ministry? Is that the band?
Yeah. Listening to metal. So that's just metal.
Very interesting choice. Like, I just thought that was perfect. Anyway, go on.
The only weird thing he does, if it's weird at all, although we all sympathize, is he's like, let me take this cardboard you've just nailed, plywood you've nailed to the window off. Because I like light. I like natural light.
But he's got this weird smushy face. Jeremy Renner with his weird smushy pug face. He constantly looks like a kid who was just put in a timeout. I find Jeremy Renner very handsome, but he's got a weird face, and he's just got this like resting kind of like grump face.
Maybe more to the point, he doesn't have a face like he doesn't look necessarily like the lead of your movies.
He does not.
You know what I mean?
He does not. But I also think I saw him on some talk show recently, and he was saying how he has a hard time interacting with children because his resting face looks unfriendly.
He said that?
Yeah, he did. That's why I'm not. I don't feel like I'm fucking mocking him right now.
He does have a bit of a,
and I think he's a friendly guy.
Face.
A resting grump face?
His mouth is kind of downturned.
Why I think he's so good in the Mission Impossible movies.
Agreed.
Because his role there is the kind of like, I don't know.
He looks disapproving.
Yes.
I said he looks like a kid who just was put in a corner for timeout.
I know you now. You've said it twice.
He looks like a kid who was just put in a corner.
Stop it.
Christ
Stop it.
Almighty. Thank you, Sonia.
But I'm sorry. I just was stepped out. What
Sure. He looks like a kid who was put in a corner for timeout.
Ben, you were supposed to be the voice of reason.
Producer Ben, a.k.a. Producer Ben, a.k.a. the Ben Deucer, a.k.a. the Poet Laureate, a.k.a. the Peeper, a.k.a. the Haas, a.k.a. Mr. Positive, a.k.a. our finest film critic, a.k.a. the Poet Laureate,
Let's do the
Fuckmaster, the Meat Lover, Birthday Benny, Dirt Bike Benny. He is not Professor Crispy. He is the Fuckmaster. He has graduated to certain titles of the course of different Masons, such as Kylo Ben, Producer Ben Kenobi. Ben 8, Ben Night Shyamalan, Say Benny Thing, Ailey Benz with a $, Warhaz, and fucking Purdue Bane.
Oh man, Purdue going all the way back.
Nice. Purdue Bane.
Okay, so
well, thank you for catching me up.
Anytime.
Bane would be useful in this movie.
For you.
For you. You're a big guy. I could do that all day.
David just cracked himself up so much and no one else laughed.
It's very painful. You're a big guy.
Watching
crashing this plane.
Your Bane is now also starting to sound more like Marvin the Martian.
Crashing this plane.
Yeah.
No, mine was always the one that sounded like Marvin the Martian.
I thought, oh, right. And then Ben ran with it, and Ben does a better Marvin the Martian.
Yeah, he does a good Marvin the Martian. Let me your ears. Take control. Take control of your city.
point is
Please.
that this movie, shot almost 10 years ago, when Renner does look noticeably younger in this film. I didn't realize that this movie had come out that long ago. It feels like a more recent film, and then you watch it and you're like, oh, right, it has been almost a decade.
Yeah. So it's 9 years old.
He's fresher faced in this, but there is something when you have this introductory shot of him sitting in a car silently, right? Not thrashing, not looking angry, with no emotion, listening to Mystery, just with this weirdly kind of downturned face.
Yeah.
And then they like retrieve him, and he's like, oh, yeah, sure.
Yeah.
And you're like, oh, this is this guy at neutral. This is this guy happy.
Yeah.
And his first bomb defusal is what I love this scene. This is my favorite, probably my favorite scene in the whole movie, except for maybe David Morse saying he's a wild man. Which is where, because I love, again, Bigelow.
Good director.
Yes. The scene where it's like, they arrive at a scene. There's an abandoned Humvee. And they're like, So they walk around.
Yeah.
And then they come across
Yes.
a group of men who are soldiers with assault weapons, wearing helmets and armor,
and gear,
cowering in a little alcove that they've all hidden
hiding the shit.
And here's what they have to say. Somebody saw a wire over there.
Yes.
And obviously, this isn't even comical because obviously they have very real reason to be afraid because as later there are like 6 bombs over there.
But then here comes Jeremy Renner in his weird fucking Stay Puft Marshmallow Man suit.
Exactly. He puts on his Play-Doh suit.
Right.
And he literally, and Joanna, when we were watching with Joanna, and she was like, how's that going to protect him? And I was like, it protects you from shrapnel. But it is sort of a comical suit. Yeah. Obviously it can't protect you from a bomb going off.
You see Guy Pearce is wearing it and then his whole fucking visor is bloody.
He gets hit.
And he was already 15 feet away at that point. It still didn't save him.
But I think this is what I love about her in this movie, just tapping into that image of these men cowering in fear. These paragons of masculine power, cowering in fear because somebody saw a red wire.
Right.
And Renner's like,
and they're not even ashamed. That's one of the things that I think is so interesting. They're not even ashamed. They're like,
go check it out.
Yeah, we're fucking afraid.
That's your job. EOD.
Yeah.
And now Renner is in his inflatable sumo Halloween costume doing his cowboy walk over to the wire.
Because also they're like, do you want to get the robot? And he's like, no, go check it out.
And they're freaking the fuck out. They're yelling into the walkie-talkies and there's so much noise.
He tosses a smoke grenade behind him and they're like, why'd you do that? He's like, for cover.
Yeah.
And
it all makes perfect sense.
Sure, right.
Everything he does makes perfect sense.
It does. It's just alarming everyone.
Everyone around him is terrified.
Now,
and
we've seen Guy Pearce at the beginning who was like,
he's more
cool,
of a by the book,
collected, didn't seem scared, but also was making jokes about it. And Renner's just like, oh no, I'm good.
Renner's actually not scared.
Which scares them. Because it's like, there's nothing
there should
performative.
There is intelligence in being afraid of things that are frightening.
And he's spending no energy trying to calm them down, trying to reassure anyone of anything.
This squad isn't going to be into someone who's not afraid of dying because they don't want to die.
Right. They want to keep living.
And so,
and
someone who's not afraid of dying
puts
them at risk.
Sanderson.
No, it's Sanborn.
It is. I wrote it down wrong.
I think it's the second. No, it's the second bomb disposal where Sanborn hits him in the face.
It hits him straight in the face. Beautiful scene.
And James is just like,
That's the one at the UN building.
Right. The first one is the one where he finds the bomb, he defuses it, and he's like, okay, I think this is good. And then he lifts it up, and it's that image from the poster where it's which 6
is unbelievable.
Bombs.
Yeah. And she just, in a movie that's with such muscular editing.
Yeah.
In every sequence.
Yeah.
This is one of the times where she holds the longest on a single shot, I feel like. As he really wrestles for this wire, and then as you see them all come uncovered from the dirt, it's fucking unbelievable.
So good in his Stay Puft suit.
Yeah.
Behind his visor, communicating not with a big reaction, but with a small reaction of
Yeah.
That's a lot of bombs.
Yeah.
And
pulls
then being
a gun from his Stay Puft suit.
That's such a
and
great.
Does that. That's so crazy. It's crazy that he has a gun even, and he does
that's
the whole
thing. That's all he really has. Yeah.
It's incredible.
So that's the first set piece, and they don't love that. Right?
Yeah.
His squad doesn't love that.
Okay, what the fuck's going on with this guy?
And then the second set piece, like you say, is the one where there's a car outside the UN building.
Oh, and the people are watching them.
There's tons of people watching them in 360. There's some people filming them.
And they are so scared.
This is when he takes the suit off. When he
That's when he takes the
There's
suit
enough stuff in here to blow us.
And he takes his headphones off, too. He throws them out.
He goes, give me my kit and my cans, is what he asked for. Right.
Got my tools? Got my tools?
Yeah. Give me my cans.
Yeah.
And someone has shot this car, tried to blow it up, lit it on fire. He extinguishes the fire.
Yes.
And after all that, he's like, So let's see what's going on
Yeah,
here.
yeah.
Lifts up the trunk. There's like 4 million bombs. And then it becomes like, it's like solving a little puzzle box. He's
Yeah.
like, where could it be?
And he doesn't-
In the seat? Not in the seat. It's like a children's book.
Yeah.
Right.
You're lifting up the flaps. It's like a thick cardboard
Is it
book.
in the glove compartment?
Right,
Not
right.
in the glove compartment. Yeah, right.
This is when he saves the thing. He saves the
Saves the little switch. The dead man
the switch. Yeah.
Because he's impressed with the
He's impressed.
artistry of this
Right.
bomb.
The
Yes.
technique.
There's this thing I always ran about, especially if you get 2 drinks in me, which is like, why do most movies pick the same fucking 5 jobs for its characters to have and jobs that are not very interesting to watch on
Right.
screen? When watching anyone be good at their job is inherently fascinating, especially if it's a job you haven't seen before. And like watching him deal with the bombs in this movie, even if you don't understand what he's doing at every moment, this is clearly an actor who fucking prepared well for the role.
Right. And
is
they did
like-
their research.
Is
in the show.
owning
Yeah.
it, right? Is
Yeah,
in
yeah.
Tom Hanks' pocket of just like exuding a level of control over his role in the film, but also just watching him try to figure it out. That process is fucking enthralling. Like, aside from the tension there's additional tension from the juxtaposition of understanding the stakes of it, cutting to like Mackie and Garrity and all the other soldiers who are like, what the fuck is going on? And Renner just being like, it's not as much about whether I live or die as if I can like prove that I know what I'm doing
Right.
by figuring out what the fuck is going on.
He doesn't want to
here.
be outsmarted. And
then
of
there
course,
was such a good false alarm with the windshield wipers.
yeah, that's great.
Yes.
But he's not to spoil, or we're not spoiling, but not to jump ahead. We don't have to talk about it right now. But the only time he's really outsmarted is just because of iron bars.
Yeah.
You know, it's
Yeah.
like, it's not nothing intricate. It's
He's
just
not
he can't get
outsmarted.
through
He's
it fast enough.
outmaneuvered.
He doesn't
Yeah.
have the tools.
Yeah.
So anyway, so there's those 2 scenes, and then I feel like interweaving are these scenes with him hanging out with Beckham
Yeah.
on the
Right.
base.
Yeah.
Right. Beckham
And it
sells
is
DVDs.
genuinely surprising.
Played by
that
Christopher Sayeh.
It's genuinely surprising that he can make an emotional connection with this kid because he sort of failed to make an emotional connection at this point with his unit mates. Like,
Sure.
like I thought
Right.
that was, and then you do
But
find
he
out
seems-
he has a son. And
He
you're
has
like,
a son,
oh, what
right.
does this mean?
But he does seem to struggle with military chains of command much more than
Right.
he, like he's cool just talking to this kid.
Yeah,
But I think the key to it is that this kid is so guileless. You know?
Yeah. He likes that the kid is just, it's
No, he
just
likes how-
got a
what a-
couple balls on him. Yeah.
but the kid's the
Right,
kid's a
yes.
smooth
Right,
operator.
that's the
I
point.
love
He
that kid.
keeps
He's like,
saying,
great movies,
he's
the best
using-
movies.
He's
Yeah,
using
yeah.
hip hop slang. He's
Right.
using the N word.
Yeah, that's his opening line.
That's his opening line.
That's like the 3rd word he says in
Wow.
this film. And
Yeah.
then like Jeremy Renner's like, this DVD was bullshit. It was like fucking,
Yeah,
and the
it was
kid's
like someone, he's like, no, that's
Yeah,
great.
yeah,
No.
yeah,
And he's like,
yeah.
no, it was bad. And he's like, well, okay. What are you
Yeah,
gonna
yeah,
do?
But I think that's what Renner takes to is like, this kid is the Jeremy Renner of selling bootleg DVDs.
Sure,
Right.
right.
You know,
Right.
like he's as obsessive and determined and focused
He
and kind of likes
identifies
the
something.
sport of it.
Yeah.
Right. Whereas like these other guys, like he doesn't fucking get what Anthony Mackie's about,
Yeah.
you know?
Yeah.
All right. So after that, I'm just.
We're starting to get more
It's a
attention.
very
I mean,
episodic
yes.
movie, right?
But Garrity has this conversation with Cambridge where he's just
Sure,
like, I don't
That's
like
in
this
there.
guy.
Yeah,
he's
yeah,
going to
yeah.
get us killed.
Right, but
Cambridge
he's
is like,
also
calm
talking
down.
about his anxieties.
Right. And he's like, I know what I'm seeing. Like, I know what I'm seeing. This guy's fucking reckless. He doesn't care about anyone. He's doing this for sport. That's a dangerous type of guy to have leading a mission.
And then we have the Ray Fiennes scene.
Right.
Right.
So
And
And
first
Mackie's
you
already
have this
punched him in the
scene-
face at this point.
Yeah,
right?
after
Yeah.
the UN thing, because he takes his cans off.
Yeah.
Right.
And then there's a scene where they're blowing up some explosives out
When he goes to
out
get
in the
his
desert.
gloves. Oh
And
my
he's like,
God.
oh, I had to get my gloves. So
God,
like
this-
the absolute fearlessness of this guy,
Yeah.
Right.
and sort of almost sociopathy, where he cannot pick up on like how ridiculous a decision that is.
And Mackie
Yes.
and Garrity have this
And
conversation.
Mackie seems to be sort of like 60% considering it. Garrity's
Yeah.
more like 25% on
Right.
board. You know what I
Right.
mean?
Right. And it's
Where
not
Mackie's
vindictive, but it's like,
I
if
could
we don't
blow
kill
him
this
up.
guy, he might get us killed.
Right. There's this sort of like slight, like very pragmatic philosophical discussion of like, look, we could blow him up. These things go off all the time. It wouldn't be that crazy.
And wouldn't
You'd
it be
have
a
to write it
lesson?
up.
Wouldn't it be a lesson in not breaking protocol like
Right.
this?
You would have
Is
to
what it
corroborate my
is.
report.
But
of
it's
course.
also right. But it's also one of those things where it's like we're just having a conversation, right? And Mackie never says no.
Yeah.
But he also never says like, no, I want to do this.
He never
He's
does the moment where
holding
he
the detonator
right.
the
Yeah,
entire
he's just
time.
kind of like,
And there's
Yeah.
no moment where he
Holding his
breaks
hand
out and goes like, haha, I was just kidding, man.
yeah.
Yeah.
And then so instead it's just sort of like, And then
Renner gets
nothing
the gloves
happens.
and just waves them around like a
and
fucking
I love that
doofus.
you just cut right to them in their Humvee. Like it's not like he then comes back and they sort of put the detonator down.
Yeah. No, they
This
just
movie doesn't have a lot of shoe leather.
And that's when they run into the men who are dressed in like Arab garb, but immediately we realize these are contractors.
That's movie star Ray
side.
fans. Yeah.
This is my favorite scene of the movie.
It's a great scene.
This
stuff's
this set piece, I suppose, this entire thing, the way it plays out.
She also does a thing here that you can only do with a movie star like that, where you have a guy whose face is bandaged, and the second
right. I knew it as soon as I saw his eyes.
You see his eyes.
I was like, oh, it's right
but for
fine.
anyone who
They
doesn't
have collaborated before, to be clear.
Strange Das.
She's the star of Strange Days. Yep.
Yeah.
I'm sorry, Strange Das.
Thank you.
And I did a whole fine sidebar on our Strange Das episode about him, I think, being one of the best screen actors ever. Mm-hmm. The thing I forgot to mention in that, when we were talking about how I think when he made this transition, and this movie is sort of right when that transition is happening, or it's been in progress for a little bit, from being like super handsome, conventional, your mom loves him, Tony, sort of prestige leading man, to being a weird character actor.
Yeah.
Voldemort's the one I forgot to talk about, which I think his Voldemort's very underrated.
I think his Voldemort's good. He's been Voldemort for a while at this point when this is happening.
Sure.
He's the first Voldemort in 2005 in Goblet.
Which is the fourth movie. Like, they've talked about this guy a lot.
And then he has a lot more to do in
he's got
Phoenix,
the end of
which
4.
is 2007.
But
and then
Half-Blood
Half-Blood Prince comes out this
good
year.
In those movies. Like, he actually...
I think he's good. I think
he's really
Voldemort is a really dull villain. That's sort of always been I love Harry Potter.
Yeah.
I've always found Voldemort to be not the most interesting thing about Harry Potter. Do you agree with me, Sonia? I don't know. I mean, you seem to be nodding.
I think that Fiennes makes Voldemort more interesting.
See, I agree.
I agree.
I
think
found
he's
him very dull in the books.
Good. Sure.
And I think you look at 4 seconds of fucking Johnny Depp playing Grindelwald and compare it to like 5 movies of Voldemort and how
but how about those 2 hours of Colin Farrell playing Grindelwald?
Yeah, it's good.
To me. Yeah, slice it on a
But
piece
that's
of
like,
bread.
you look at Fiennes and it's like, he's putting the exact right amount of paprika on the sandwich. And your task is be the most evil person who's ever existed.
No, I know. Yeah. And of course, yes, again, on the page, Voldemort's character, it's like, what is he? He's right. He's a
evil.
creature of pure
He's
evil.
just evil.
Oh, okay.
But you don't want to do too much. You don't want to do too little.
Yeah.
You don't want to let the like visual effects of the look do too much like baggage for you. But this is like, he's at this point now where his leading man image is being distorted because now, by and large, he's Voldemort. Like, to a generation of film goers,
That's true.
He's Voldemort. He's that noseless fuck.
And I mean, what I like about Voldemort, not to go on too much of a Harry Potter thing, is more, it's never really about him. It's about the people who are drawn to him, right? Like, it's like, and that's not to, I just think that everything in all pop culture can be related through Harry Potter, and it's very reflective of,
I agree.
And it's really fucking irritating, to be perfectly honest with you.
Yeah. Our next miniseries is Voldemort, by the way. We're not picking a director.
If you
we're
guys
not doing Harry Potter.
If
we're
you
just
guys
doing
do the
Voldemort.
Harry Potter movies, it would be very funny, actually.
I think that we might have some fun with the Harry Potter movies, but they're not great movies.
Yeah.
No, but
I think one of them is
interesting
a
franchise.
really excellent movie.
We did.
Is it the third one? Is it Prisoner of Azkaban?
No, but
That's
that
my
one's
pick.
really good too.
To me,
that one
that's
is good.
that's the pinnacle.
I think the last one's
You're
really,
gonna say
really
Half-Blood
strong.
Prince.
Half-Blood Prince is
That's
I think
that's
that
really
is
good
a
one, too.
stupendous movie.
That's a great movie. And 7 Part 1 is a great
Seven
movie.
is Seven Part 1 is a very interesting movie.
I think it's like actually
I think it's pretty good.
Well,
I like all the Yates movies, which are 5 through 7.
We've never said this on the podcast before, and it wasn't like a very long conversation, but when we were ramping down our Star Wars days, and we're trying to decide what to do next, we did consider doing Harry Potter. Like, Ben was like, what if we did Star Trek? What if we did Harry Potter? Like, there was that thought before we went to a director mode of like, are there other franchises we could do this deep dive into? Mm-hmm. And then we decided that was not the thing to do.
Right, but yeah, no, I guess we floated
there was like a moment where we thought, like, what if we did? Yeah, that would be cool.
Would be a very easy choice for us.
I think it'd be really interesting.
I think that would be great, and it's sort of weird that we haven't talked about him more.
Yeah,
because he's a classic blank check director.
That's what I'm saying.
Especially now.
Yeah.
Yes.
Where he's just like, no, I'm going to buy my time.
I think that's the biggest reason we haven't done him yet is that Gravity is going to be his blank check-yes movie. Like, we need to wait to see what that is. He shot something that hasn't...
Yeah, Roma, which I don't...
A small, like, characters.
It's like a family drama. I believe it's set in Mexico, and we don't know much about it because it has not yet.
He shot it a while ago, though, and it's still... No one knows anything about it.
Now I'm looking this up.
Yeah, but we don't know much about it. I think Cuarón would be good, though. I mean,
think he'd be good.
For sure, because he hasn't made that many movies.
But you want to see what he does after Gravity, because dude's got that fucking check.
Yeah, but I also think it's amazing that he got to make Gravity after Children of Men. I think that's like a really interesting because Children of Men was not a success,
lot of money.
but because it was so critically acclaimed and got all the surprise Oscar nominations, they were like, okay, all right, fine. And obviously, and also stars wanted to work with him.
Right.
But yeah, it's like...
What is his breakout movie?
A Little Princess.
But like, is that a breakout movie?
Right, because that was just like a solid...
honestly, his real breakout is
Itu Mama Tambien. Right, okay,
That's right, you're right. But it is funny that he makes this small independent Mexican film, then he makes A Little Princess and Great Expectations.
No, but I think he made A Little Princess first.
Yes, it's called Solo Tanku Pareja.
Oh, that's what you mean. Okay, yes, go on.
And then... A Little Princess, Great Expectations, then Itu Mama Tambien, then Harry Potter, Children of Men, Gravity.
Right.
Like it's an interesting,
very interesting
contained run.
Yeah.
It is.
His collaborator was it his son?
Oh, Jonas Cuarón, who just directed a film.
That movie Desierto last year. That is basically
Gravity in the desert.
No, it's a straight up horror movie about like what if a crazy American guy just tried to shoot Mexican immigrants trying to come over the border with a gun.
Really?
Oh my God.
And I don't think it's a good movie per se. It was an interesting idea, but it's very, very blunt and direct. And it's just Jeffrey Dean Morgan plays the crazy American guy, which is the very on-the-nose casting.
And it's Gael Garcia Bernal.
Gael Garcia Bernal is the main immigrant trying to make it over the border. There are others too. But that movie is brutal.
So The Hurt Locker. At this point, have we gotten to the drinking scene yet, or that happens after?
So first
I
is
want
Ray
to talk
Fiennes.
about this scene for a second.
Ray Fiennes.
I want to talk about this for a second.
This effect of if you don't recognize Ray Fiennes by his eyes, the second he pulls off the scarf, everyone in the audience goes, "Oh, familiar face.
Right.
She pulled a fast one on us."
Right.
Like it's immediately diffused because
And also,
it's a movie
the idea is they're like, "Who are you guys? Who are you guys? You don't look like soldiers. Who are you guys?" And they pull it off, and he's like, "You fucking Americans."
And
he says,
"Oh,
you guys are really wound up tight," or something like that.
You immediately feel comfortable with this guy. But I love the fact that he's so cooperative that he goes along with it.
He seems like Renner-ish in that he's unflappable-ish.
Seems like a bit of a cad.
He's a little right. Yeah. And they're bounty hunting, essentially, right? With their fucking blade.
They're contractors. They've got the deck of cards, which is a real thing.
Which is obscene, but
strange.
Anyway, that's fine.
Do you remember when they were like selling those in New York? That was like a big thing that like a lot of like
you could like buy them on the internet. Right. It was like fucking crazy.
But like people had them on the street in New York a lot, I remember. They were like a hot fucking item. What a weird time.
It was not good.
This is the Blackwater, right?
Essentially. That's what these people. They're British, it's a little they're whatever, but yes.
So
and of course lots of different companies were crawling around the Middle East,
So they start being like, you guys are wound up tight, we're the cool people who get it.
Yeah.
And then they get massacred.
Right. They're like the senior to Renner's freshman.
Right.
And they get massacred by no one in particular, just some guys who are in a little...
snipers who are trying to free their captives. Yeah. No? Yeah, right.
But it's not like these are villains, like that we have any sense of.
They're just more
people, just some people.
They're not in the deck of cards.
And then you have this drawn out, incredibly thought through sniper scene.
That's incredible.
That part of it is that they just have to wait. Like
it's a lot of
very long time.
And Renner, James steps up and is the captain in a way, or the leader in a way that he hasn't been before.
Yeah. He does. He deals with that all totally professionally.
He coaches them and brings the best combatness out of them.
He does it all right, which is right. Yeah, he's still, because he's playing the spotter role for the sniper.
Right.
He doesn't move, which is what you're supposed to do.
Yes, he takes good bedside manner.
Yeah.
Right.
He
takes Garrity's like, I don't know what to do, and he's like, you just got to make a decision. It's going to be okay.
Right. He coaxes him through it. He gets him to take control of the situation and handle it. And Owen gets to the point where he does save them.
Right.
He is able to do the thing that he was afraid he wasn't going to be able to do.
The sort of ambiguous situation of someone's approaching. I think they have a gun. Like, what do I do? Yeah.
But there've already been a couple moments in the film where he's like yelling at Garrity, where he's like, "God damn it, where's my fucking thing? Faster, come on, be on the ball." Right. And then this moment when he's like, I need ammo, we're out of ammo, get me ammo. Right. So they look at I can't find ammo anywhere.
And then the ammo has
dead
blood
bodies
on it.
Okay, it's stuck. Clean it off. I don't know how to clean it off.
Here's how you do it. Spit and rub.
Right, you expect that Renner's going to now really burst and just start yelling at him.
Doesn't.
Instead, he just calms down.
Yeah.
He's like, here's how we do this.
Level.
Right.
He's like, You're good. You're a
Well,
good soldier.
like-
You're doing a great job. You should feel really proud of yourself.
And is right.
Yeah, he's
So
like a soccer coach.
He's the perfect person.
With the kid who's about to start crying.
all of a sudden,
Yeah.
right? And it really highlighted for me how fucking dumb the things that war requires are.
Yes.
Like that you have to clean the blood off of sniper
With your
bullets
saliva.
with your saliva.
Yeah.
That is your duty now, soldier. That is what you are being
in the desert.
How you will be
you're a
called
little
on your-
dehydrated
right,
right
Next
now.
to a dead Ray Fiennes.
right. And
Yeah,
there's
exactly.
fucking-
Arguably the greatest actor of the 90s. Dead in the sand.
dead in the sand.
Two
And all
Academy
you've
Award
got-
nominations. They don't count for anything.
And all you've got is Capri Sun, right?
Yep.
Like that's what they're
Oh,
drinking.
God. Can I talk about this for a second?
Please.
Maybe my single favorite
Them
moment in the
fumbling
movie.
with the straws.
But it's like, here's Jeremy Renner. His job is professionally disarming
I know.
explosive devices.
hands
And
shaking.
even he can't puncture
Yes!
a Capri Sun without it squirting out the top.
Right, yeah.
Like, I like this little argument the movie's making, which is like, it is actually impossible.
Yeah, that's the real argument of this movie. That's the whole. The bomb diffuser is just like that's a diversion
It's
for the
the
real
most
point.
political part of this film. That's true. Is Catherine Bigelow just says,
Divisive.
like, I want to make it clear, in case you've
Polarizing.
ever felt bad about getting Capri Sun all over your hands,
Right.
that literally no one can do it.
Right.
Impossible.
He's trying and he gets the straw in and it squirts out the top.
The odd thing to me is that it showed to me the institutional disinterest in these people's actual
Yeah,
lives.
the Capri
Of course,
Sun
here's your
company as an industrial.
There's many times in this movie
but
where
also-
something breaks or doesn't
Yes.
work, and it's like, what happened? It's U.S. Army.
the U.S.
What are you
right.
going to do?
And
Right.
it's like, what's the something they need right now? They need sustenance. They need electrolytes. They need a
Right.
juice. Here's the shittiest possible way to open a juice.
Right.
You are going to be stressed the fuck out,
If the
and your
Capri
hands are going to
company-
be shaking.
If Capri Incorporated actually cared about people,
Yeah, I
they
know.
would put a little less juice in the pouch so that you could puncture it and get air
Yeah.
before you have to
Interesting.
squeeze.
It is interesting they don't just turn it around and do it at the bottom like we did in school.
I never fucking did that. Are you kidding me?
Are you crazy? You've never thought about that?
No. Did you do that?
I didn't drink Capri Sun that much.
Oh, fucking great.
Okay. Jesus Christ.
What were you drinking? Fucking
Ribena.
What?
Ribena.
drinking your Lucozade?
Yeah, why don't you eat some more of your English candy while you're at it?
Yeah.
Lucozade
This
is
is
fucking
this
English
is an
candy.
American fucking podcast, David.
some of this.
Have some Cadberries, David. I just,
Okay, wait.
for the listener at home, I just
Griffin.
threw 4 Cadberries at David.
You've never taken a Capri Sun pouch.
I know
Eat
what you're
this
describing.
Flipped it upside
I never,
down
the
and
flatter
stuck
end.
that
I
in
never
through-
thought of doing that.
What are you fucking kidding me?
I'm not. Guess what I'm going to do when this fucking podcast ends?
Go
Buy a
buy-
12-pack of Capri
How
Sun.
do you ever
Get
even
home
buy Capri
practice.
Sun? Yeah, you got to. The reason I like this scene is because I think it would be much easier to dismiss Will James
Yes.
if he was not the guy who he is in this scene.
The Menchie move
Yeah,
of,
yeah, yeah,
Get me
yeah.
the juice,
Right,
get me
yeah,
the
yeah. And
juice,
the Beckham
punctures it
scenes, to be fair.
immediately.
Gives it to
hand-
Mackie,
without
not for-
hesitation.
right,
Sip
without-
it, sip it. Like,
right.
very firm.
It's like
but,
so
but
loving
gentle
in a way,
simultaneously,
right.
like, you need to take care
Right.
of yourself.
And that's actually a very, to go back to the gender dynamics of it, there's sort of a maternal element there, right? And that's so interesting, like to think about how these men get masculine together and like one of the things they have to do is care for each other
Right.
in these very
And especially
fraught
for a guy
times.
who's this unflappable and doesn't need anyone to hand him a packet of juice.
He's totally aware
the fact that
of
he's aware that
everyone's
he's
needs.
the weird one and
Yeah.
everyone else needs to be like, you know, Garrett needs to be talked to gently.
But
Mackie
sometime,
needs to
right,
take
just to
care
move
of-
us off
Yep,
this,
yep,
because
yep,
sometime
yep.
right around this is the scene where they are essentially wrestling and
Yes,
drinking
so right
and punching
afterwards.
each other. I think
They're
it's right after.
high on there.
They're
yeah.
hyped up.
Yeah.
It was an insane day they had.
And that
They
seems
got
something.
hyphy.
And they're smashing each other. Shout
out to the Wilmot
They
brothers.
got hyphy. I think that scene is so good.
That's the moment where Sophie said to me, "This is the most masculine movie I've ever seen."
So tell me
Right.
why you think it's so good.
Because I just think that a lot of filmmakers, and I'm not even saying this is a gendered thing where she has some magical insight into men because she's a woman. I think she has magical insight into men, to be clear, and it definitely helps that she's a woman. But she's also just a really good director.
I think she also understands behavior really well, and she's really fascinated in the difference in behavior between
Yes.
masculine people and feminine
Sure.
people.
Right.
But I'm saying most people would make this scene frightening, and she
Yes.
doesn't make this scene frightening. Like, that doesn't mean that she thinks this scene is like a harmless expression of their excess energy.
Right.
Sure.
But most people would be like, this is a dark, frightening thing that's being
And
exposed
she
here.
sort of shows it to be like roughhousing.
It is
Yeah.
like
like a playground. Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's
Boys.
my whole read
Even
of
when
this
it gets
scene.
intense, James's response is just like,
My whole read in this scene is I was never a physical child. I hated playing sports, but also whenever boys went to roughhouse, I did not
curl
want
up in a ball.
fucking anything to do with that. I would hang out with girls on the playground and we'd talk about fucking whatever. Like I would spend time getting into girls' pop culture so I'd have subjects to talk about with them. I would watch all the girls' cartoon shows because I'd be like, they're over there wrestling each other.
Mm-hmm.
Like what starts out as gentle play will very quickly turn to a physical fight. They're having fun. I will not have fun doing that.
Mm-hmm.
But there is that sort of rush that young boys have, and it even goes on to like frat boys in certain quarters of just like fucking headlocking guys and sparring and whatever. If you're not trying to hurt each other, that adrenaline rush of that kind of thing. And Jeremy Renner is a guy who never grew out of that. And now he's like, that was his like fucking gateway drug. And now he's onto the harder shit, which is disarming bombs. It's the same level of like that threat of danger that I can prevent.
But they all do it. Like, I think it's not just Renner. I think that it's almost like the military.
It's the grown-up version of
the
that.
point you need to be, right?
A
The
lot of
place you
people
need
are in
to
the
be
military for reasons other than just they want to roughhouse.
No. But it brings that out of you.
I agree.
Right.
I agree. But
Yeah.
I think that either needs to be activated within you or you're someone who seeks out that kind of thrill.
Right.
It is a heightened version of what makes 5-year-olds without any sort of deliberate, intentionality just start grappling with each other.
Yeah.
I never had that
Which, by
thing.
the way, I think women do too. Girls do too.
Yeah,
Just in a
I
little bit
think
differently.
I think it's a different thing.
Yeah.
But I think there's a very straight line between this kind of roughhousing and becoming a soldier.
Yeah, totally.
Yes.
And the fact that she identifies that, and I wonder if how much this was in the script and stuff, because it's a kind of wordless scene. But like the fact that she identifies that as being so crucial to this narrative is amazing.
This scene is also very well directed. Even if that was 100% in the script described as such, the energy of the scene, the tone of the scene, how it's depicted, the fact that it never does get scary, even when there's like the knife out and everything.
It's a tiny scary. Yeah, it's a little scary and then it's fine.
She's walking a very fine line in this, and the scene is always like perfectly judged.
Tell me something, why does Sanborn get to punch Renner, James rather?
He owes him one. I don't know.
But I couldn't figure out what he owed him for.
No, Renner got a shot on him. They do say something.
It's when they're punching back and forth.
And he draws Owen draws the big X with the thing. I just thought that was interesting. Yeah.
But then after this scene is what I think we already decided is
they talk about the wife at this scene. They find
they do.
Right.
And is that the scene where he shows them his weird box of
he finds the weird box.
Yeah,
they find it.
He's
They're
feeling
like,
close to them
what the fuck
for
is
the first
this?
time.
They all talk about each other.
Yeah.
And the only time James gets pissed off is when they say shit about his wife.
Yeah.
And he's like, no, she's just loyal.
She's not
just
stupid.
Loyal. And he's kind of like, and it's not even that charge, but he's like, don't go there. That's not,
But he also weirdly, he's very defensive of her, but doesn't seem to like her very much.
Exactly. It's like he just knows that he's not one to judge.
He makes that fucking Henny Youngman joke about like I said, things that almost killed me about the wedding ring.
Right.
But the bigger point he makes is like, you have a wife, and he's like, kind of. I mean, we got divorced, but then she didn't move out. We're still together. I don't know what you call that.
Right.
Yeah.
I got a kid, and everyone's like,
she's stupid because you suck. So, but then we come to the difficult third quarter of the movie.
Yep.
Because then we have the scene in the warehouse where they find a boy whose body has a bomb implanted in it. Body bomb. And James is insisting this is Beckham. Obviously, we don't really get much of a look at the boy, so we're sort of in the dark.
And his face is all bloodied.
Yeah.
It's,
right, and that is actually
a young boy.
It's a young boy. We only really see of the children we see on the street. They're all boys. The girl children are not really out, and there's a lot of boys, and they run around the cars. They're selling DVDs, things like that. You see a lot of them. It's very interesting to me that both Sanborn and Owen are like, is it that kid?
They're like, I don't even know how he tells them
and
apart.
then, of course, we do see Beckham later.
Yes, but so much later that you go through this whole really fucking awful scene.
Yes.
Thinking that it might be this guy, this kid.
Where the point of this scene is even James seems to have reached his limits where he's just like, let's just blow this up.
I also think this is the most political section of the movie because I think this functions like a microcosm for what she's saying about
what Bowl is saying.
Right, about these wars, which is just like there was this weird sense of like revenge we felt, a sense of like injustice that needed to be corrected, and he goes on this whole fucking fool's errand, doesn't even know really what he's looking for, or if what he's looking for even exists. He's trying to find the guy responsible for a crime that didn't actually happen to the person he thinks it did, and it's almost like this I think it is analogous to like searching for weapons of mass destruction. entering these homes that he wasn't invited into, you know, feeling that he's doing the right thing. And then that weird scene of him with the doctor where the doctor's saying, like, you're a guest, sit down. And he can't figure out, like, why aren't you being antagonistic to me?
Right. And then the wife comes out and is like, get the fuck out of here.
It's amazing.
Right.
Yeah, it's amazing.
I think this is her section of saying, like, the whole relationship.
It's his section, but carry on. Yeah,
sure.
Yeah.
Sure. But I think it's kind of interesting spot because it does function as character building. It is the moment where he's like, what the fuck am I doing now? I used to always at least be right.
Yeah.
Like, even if I was crazy, I was correct.
Right.
And now he goes on this weird, like, Jason Bourne side mission where he's, like, wearing a fucking hoodie and he's got a gun and he's holding up drivers and whatever. But he has no idea what the fuck he's talking about.
Yeah.
And it feels like 2003.
And how much harm he creates.
It feels like
right. Like, how much distrust he sows. Like, the fact that he makes that poor DVD seller, like, feel so fucking terrified.
Right. Where he
and, like, goes
essentially
into these people.
makes that man never come back. You know,
right,
he's ruining his livelihood.
He's ruined this guy's livelihood.
As tough a livelihood as it is.
Right.
You know,
But, like, in this completely ravaged place, this is the one thing this guy's got.
Right.
So, like, he's ruining that guy's life. He's going into someone else's home.
Let me destabilize a country.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, so I had not thought
this
about
is
it
the very
metaphorically.
heightened, right. And then, of course, right after that is the scene where they go on this, like, quote-unquote mission.
Right. Which is
into
very...
the, like, dark...
Yeah.
You know, just the three of them. And this is where anytime you read an interview with a soldier, they're like, this is all ludicrous. No one would ever do this.
Soldiers do not like this movie.
They do not like this segment.
They do not like this stuff. A lot of soldiers do like a lot of this movie.
Yeah.
Like, in terms of getting
like
the general vibe, exactly.
They say that the missions don't play out in a way that technically makes any sense.
Sure.
Like them not talking over the radios and things like that. Things I think she deliberately chooses as storytelling measures of, like, I don't want a bunch of scenes of people fucking miles away from each other talking over comms.
Sure.
Right.
So she keeps them close and everything.
He is a little bit of an anomaly in many ways.
Right.
But it is...
Of course, this scene, especially the scene where they go and split up, which is even within their stupid decision, another dumb decision,
right?
Which is what gets Eldridge, Dick Garrity, shot in the leg.
I went down a rabbit hole last night.
So here's my question: does it work? Does the movie work if you take out this? Well, I don't know how they resolve Beckham, but does this movie work if you take out the body bag scene? I would argue that the Inferno scene, the, like, very obvious war is hell scene, that is then followed with that side mission, that alone could tell the story of his adrenaline fix without needing...
Yeah, I think both of these things are on the nose.
It's not my favorite part of the movie. I think the movie would work without it. I don't think it takes anything away from the film. Mm-hmm. Those are my three feelings on it.
No.
Like,
I
think it's all interesting shading within it. I like her sort of making this more allegorical point about the sort of, like, I don't know, this feels right in the moment kind of. Right. Like, oorah mentality.
Well, and it really, it makes the disorientation very visceral.
Yes.
That, like, he literally doesn't know. He thinks he likes this kid, and he literally can't even recognize this kid.
I think it's worth it for that moment.
Yeah.
I think the moment when Beckham comes up to him with the DVDs and he's
so fucking shaken.
Right. I think that's such a good fucking payoff.
Great. Yeah.
I mean, it asks you to, like, engage in a 15-minute red herring for that payoff.
Yeah.
And the larger point when the rest of the movie is so, like, just constructed of these very...
But then how interesting that the red herring is so detailed. I mean, I think that's part of it. Like, it's not just that it's, like, a kid that he sees dead or a kid that he sees bloodied and he immediately thinks it's that kid. It's like he sees this kid dead, he eviscerates this kid in order to get explosives out of him.
He originally says, let's just bomb the entire place. And goes like, no,
and
fuck
then
it,
he can't
pull it off.
Do it.
Right.
So we see him cutting, like, it's not even surgical.
Yeah,
it's not even sutures. It's like wire that has been used to, like, put this person together. A thing that does not happen. Like, we know this does not happen in real life.
A tough scene to watch at a bagel shop. I kept on covering up the screen because people...
A tough scene to watch, a scene that doesn't really exist. So that's such a big swing to take for that one payoff. And I'm not saying it doesn't work, but I'm saying it's something.
I agree with that. Here, the other thing I'll say in defense of this sequence is it's the one time in the movie we see him totally out of his depth and his element. He knows how to do one thing particularly well,
right?
Which is this sort of disarmament of the explosives. And when it's him doing person to person,
right? When it literally becomes a person, when the machine that has no that has no face suddenly becomes a thing with a face,
right? That fucks him up. Like he only knows how to deal with, like, wires and bolts. And
But it's weird because the movie has not really been about metaphor until that point.
I agree.
Yeah.
I agree.
It's a little on the nose. Yeah.
Made me think of Bo Bergdahl a little bit too, the vigilante kind
who Mark
of
Bowl eventually tried to write a movie about.
And I can't believe you would bring up this podcast major rival serial.
I know.
Season 2.
It's true. We are on the same level.
Yeah.
It's the same kind of podcast, same cultural impact, same money made.
By the way, our new spin-off podcast, Peeville, which stands for Poopville, that launches next week. It's one story told over 27 parts, Peeville. Check it out.
You just killed everything. It's just dead.
Brought to you by MailCamp. Peeville.
Oh, God. Remember the good old
Poopville.
days of cereal?
No, I didn't mean to cut you off.
It was a simpler time.
Sorry.
It was a simpler time.
That was the first podcast. We had no idea what this would turn into.
So after all this stuff, none of which I love, but all of it's okay. And then we already talked about what I think is the best scene out of all this, which is the burst pipe scene, as you put it, the Anthony Mackie realizing like, I can't handle this anymore.
But that comes after the human, the sort of suicide bomber guy with the locks.
Oh, he's right. That's the scene we should talk about.
Well, and to quickly say this about that scene, him going into the shower is really intense.
Ooh, yes.
Too, I think. And I think that there is a moment of self-reflection there that there wasn't necessarily, even though he gets over it really fast and kind of has this game face on when Owen goes in the chopper and fucking yells at him, which again is a scene I really like.
You did this to me.
Yeah, fuck you, you did this to me. Like
James is like, you're still alive.
Yeah,
Get to go home.
Things are fine. Yeah.
You know,
and it's like,
right. I'm not just a pawn for you to get your thrills. He says whatever that line is, which I think is a really concise, like, I'm done being your fucking...
It's the summary of the takeaway of the movie.
Right.
Anyway.
Like, I'm not what you bet in order to try to win at the poker table.
And then I would say that from this point on, the movie is brilliant. Like, back to being, like...
The last 20 minutes are not
the innocent suicide bomber scene is so wrenching.
It's completely wrenching.
And I'd forgotten when you said, talking about forgetting the end of this movie, the body bomb stuff I had completely forgotten. I forgot about Beckham as a character, but that scene always stuck in my mind very, very viscerally, of that feeling of him having to look at a guy in the eyes, as you said, now there's a human face on it, right?
Yeah.
He's like, I'm sorry.
And to recognize his fucking limits.
Yeah.
And it's, as you said, the frustration of, it's not even that I've been outsmarted by this. It's literally, I don't have the time and the equipment to take care of this. It's impossible.
Right.
It is fully impossible for me to stop this from happening.
Right.
That guy constantly, the translator, repeating over and over again, like, he's a good man, he's a family man. And Renner's like, don't fucking psych me out with this stuff.
Right.
Like, I'm already up against a lot. Don't make me feel bad in advance.
It's quite a scene.
It's quite a scene.
Oh, boy.
And then it seeks so quickly. Well, it seeks so quickly from Anthony Mackie in doing his wonderful scene in the Humvee.
Now he wants a son. Before he wasn't ready.
Yeah. Now
and
he wants
Renner
a son.
kept on saying, like, it's easy. Just put some sperm inside a lady.
Right,
and he's like, A, gross. B, not ready. And Renner doesn't even understand why you wouldn't want to have a child. Because, well, I have a child. I'm not there. That's not a problem.
He never thinks about having
just make a baby.
Right.
But now Mackie is so strongly like, I don't want to be here. This is not what I want to be. I want to be a father. I want to have a little boy. I want to raise a boy.
And then we go very quickly to he's in a supermarket.
There's a hard cut.
Yeah.
Like,
it's
one of
like
the
there's not even a transition.
I have ever
Tanya said it's flashback, right? And I didn't want to say anything. I was like, it's not. Like,
I think this scene is so good.
Oh, it's so supermarket?
Yes, because just that concept. And I know, I have never really traveled to a country that is so far removed from my experience of the world. But I do know, people who have, describing that, where you return in like supermarkets, especially.
Supermarkets are crazy.
Very overwhelming, where you're like, right, why are there 8 million cereals?
Yeah.
Like, what? Like, why is there like so much choice? Why it's like that? It's very overwhelming. Like the whole environment is so
and it's
alien,
sterile.
And it's so sterile, and the
sterile.
And the fucking fluorescent lights,
and the music.
I would argue that shot with him staring at the cereal is what wins this movie Best Picture.
It's so good.
I honestly think that's the thing that pushes this movie over the edge. I think if this movie ended with like the Mackie scene, it would have been nominated.
No, but totally
having that as the coda, it somehow like
you need that.
Recontextualizes the entire movie, pushes it over the edge in such an elegant way.
He has a scene with his wife.
Right.
Scene with his son.
And she gets like, she has top billing in the movie for like 2 seconds of
I think she's
screen
third
time.
bill, right? Yeah, it's
I
crazy.
think
Fourth?
I think she's like
Four.
5th or something.
Yeah.
But she's like before the and.
You have
or
that
whatever.
one phone call. It's
Because
crazy.
Morse,
billing.
Fiennes, and Pierce are all gathered in a sort of
Yes.
with and
Yes.
Right.
area.
There's a lot of
Yeah,
bugs.
yeah.
Also,
Right.
Van Damme.
But
Right.
it's crazy how quickly it's almost like you didn't realize how used you'd gotten to the Iraqi atmosphere.
What's great because she
until
holds on
she
that shot for so
snaps-
long.
Right, until she
Yeah.
snaps to the supermarket and then this cold, wet,
Right.
the exact opposite of cold, wet fall, like the leaves.
And
He's
we've been
cleaning
doing
the
these
leaves out of
shots
the gutter.
like, so close on Jeremy Renner's face that you're like taking note of the fly that's like buzzing
Right,
around his
right,
mouth and his
into the eye, right.
which all of that shit is so good.
Yeah.
But then when it's just like he's tiny, he's microscopic. He's never felt more insignificant than when he's faced with like Toucan Sam.
Yes.
And like the Nesquik bunny.
This like wall of cereals.
right. And
yes.
it's like here's one shot that sums up the entire movie.
and then
it's so masterful.
And everything, the supermarket and the scene where he's trying to talk to her about what he's seen. These
Yeah.
are two, I mean, and I'm paraphrasing Tanya here too, very classic vets trying to reintegrate back into the world and
Yes.
failing to,
No,
right?
And then,
Evangeline,
of course, we go ahead. Go ahead.
Evangeline Lilly's high billing, right? Coupled with the fact that for a long time when she was trying to get this movie made, they, I think, originally tried to do it with Colin Farrell.
That would have been good.
Right. And there was another, your favorite actor.
Interesting.
There was another big,
Lindsay Beth.
more,
I think he's got too much face for it, to be honest with you.
Give me that face.
I agree with that. He doesn't look smudgy enough.
Yeah,
that's
that.
He doesn't have that Jeremy Renner
I can't believe I'm
smudge.
siding with
Carry
the smudge
on.
now. Okay.
But the other, this was when they were trying to make it for, bigger budget, more commercial film. It said Charlize Theron to play the wife, which this is post Monster.
Whoa.
So I think at some point, I've
Maybe that
never
was
gotten
a
this
bigger
confirmed.
chunk. Yeah.
I wouldn't be surprised if there was a version of the script and perhaps even what they shot where once he goes back home, there's like 15 minutes as opposed to what really is in the film, like 5 minutes or less.
Right.
I think she got there. And once you have the supermarket scene, it's like, we don't need anything else. This
Right.
sums it up so fucking well. It's so concise.
Right.
I have to imagine she shot more, especially because like this is her at like peak Lost.
Mm-hmm.
Everyone was waiting for the show to end so she could become a movie star, which then didn't really happen. But I remember that being that thing of like, someone's going to make Evangeline Lilly happen, right? Let's make her an elf. Let's have her train Hugh Jackman to Robot Box, like.
No, I mean it's a really good point because what you end up seeing is how quickly you come to the conclusion of the film. Which is just that, he's totally unsuited for this and he doesn't know how to do this.
I'm watching it on my iPad and I'm on the Amazon
bagel.
app, great
Yeah.
company, eating a bagel, and I'm seeing how much time is like left in the movie. And when it cuts into the supermarket, I'm like, 10 minutes left.
It's crazy.
And their credits too?
Yeah, exactly.
right,
I was
right.
like, how is there so little of this movie left?
But that's it, because you just have the one shot.
He
of
talks
him.
to he talks to his baby.
Talks to his baby.
He's talking to
about
his
the Jack
baby,
in the Box.
which is on the nose, but
It's a little on the nose.
it's fine,
It's
I
good.
guess.
It's good. And he
It's
sells
good.
it. He underplays
I
it.
think he sells it.
He
I think
sells everything.
This is a
feels-
remarkable star-making
This is the
performance.
Should've won
modicum
the
of
Oscar.
self-awareness he
Yeah.
has. He knows that for some reason he only wants this, but
Yes.
he can't really put that in the frame of the rest
right,
of the world.
exactly. I think the scene would go too far if he started explaining what he likes about it.
Right.
But to him, it's exactly the same as the Jack in the Box, which is like, I'm looking at this. This is a piece of tin and a stuffed animal.
Right.
It should have no inherent intrigue. It used to for me.
Yeah.
And now I found this new Jack in the Box. I can't intellectualize it. I don't know why, but this is the one thing that fucking makes sense to me.
Oh my God. I didn't quite realize that like the Hurt Locker is the Jack in the Box, I guess. Like
The something jacket. So this movie was first called.
which is also a cool title.
The what?
No, I think it's
The
a bad
Something
title.
Jacket.
The something jacket.
The
I think it's a
something
shitty
jacket.
title.
I
what
think it's a cool
exactly?
title.
I mean, the Hurt Locker in my mind is just where you put the pain, right?
Yeah, that's what they sort of said. Yeah. It's like a term, because there's a guy who sued Mark Bowl and said that he stole everything from him. There was a soldier who, like, Mark Bowl was embedded for a long time.
Right.
He worked with a bunch of
2
different
years.
troops and whatever. And he said that there's this one guy who's like, I'm very much the Jeremy Renner character in this movie. I was the one who said the Hurt Locker to him.
Wow.
And they countersued and were like, Hurt Lockers existed as a term since the Vietnam War. Like, he worked with like 300 different dudes, their elements, their incidents, and the case was dismissed. But it was this like term that stuck in Mark Bowles' craw that I think was the like, I want to make a movie about that sensation. These guys who just kind of keep on trucking. And then you have like what is the most kind of classically heroic like cowboy shots of Renner in the movie, which is him getting off the plane with the duffel bag, reemployment, and then there's just a quick cut, and now the boots become the
shot.
Stay Puft boots.
These boots are made
for walking,
bomb defusing.
Yeah.
The scene that the shot that just got me was when I think you cut to black after after you see the helicopters, you cut to black, and then it just slowly the light comes onto his face, and it's just a few seconds long. But I was like, that's the whole movie. The whole movie is trying to see this person clearly. And it's so beautifully done, I think, too.
And also not to like hit the Renner smudge face thing too much, but there's an earlier moment, I think, when he's looking for, whoever he thinks body bombed Beckham. Yeah. And you see Jeremy Renner totally in silhouette.
Yeah.
I'm like, that's that fucking movie star thing where no one looks like Jeremy Renner.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
Like Jeremy Renner in complete shadow from the side is distinctively could not be anyone other than Jeremy Renner.
Well, and that it should be it should be that he's entering into the darkness. The war is the darkness, but
Not
instead it's completely inverted, and it's just so
he's a silly boy.
It's so stunning. And then he's beaming, right? He walks down with his Stay Puft Marshmallow Man suit.
365 days left.
Beaming, and it says 365 days left.
He's killing it.
And it's crazy because for everyone else, it's like a life sentence or like it's a year-long sentence. And for him, he's like, thank God.
So everyone, when it comes out, I remember, because it was a big hit at the festivals when it played earlier.
It had done well at these festivals.
It's commercial.
Sure.
It comes out, I remember almost immediately with the reviews, everyone was going like, Catherine Bigelow, never a female winner. Like that was already the narrative.
A little bit, but this, no. I don't
remember when that movie came out, people being like, Oscar. And I was like, it's a small movie. Like people were like, Renner. And I was like, I don't know if it's going to last all the way. But people were boosting Bigelow from the get-go.
I mean,
reviews, because everyone wanted to see a female best director winner.
I think that is a false narrative for this movie.
I think this is true. I distinctly remember seeing it and people immediately talking about that.
This movie came out. It was a little movie.
Yeah.
It took a while. It came out in July. I didn't see it till at least August, if not September, because people were like, that movie's really good.
I saw it opening week.
Good for you.
Thank you.
But,
I'm very proud.
I mean, I don't think this is a movie that came out and right away people were like, I smell Oscar.
I only remember them smelling Oscar for her.
I don't know. Maybe. I mean, I think it happened fast enough because, of course, the narrative was always. I mean, even Sofia Coppola, when she got nominated, she was never going to win, for Best Director and for Lost in Translation.
And she was only the fourth in history.
I think third.
Campion, Wertmuller, Coppola.
I think that's it.
And then Bigelow
was the fourth.
Right, yeah.
And like even though, just her very presence, people were like, if Sofia Coppola won, she'd be the first woman to win.
Yeah.
And of course, in the Oscars themselves, when Barbra Streisand presented it, she comes out, and Barbra Streisand comes out, and you're like, well, they know who. They think they know who's winning.
It's like when they had Lucas, Coppola, and Spielberg present to
Scorsese. Right, yeah. But she comes out and she's like, the winner of this Oscar could be the first woman to win an Oscar. And everyone's like, And she's like, or could be the first African-American to win an Oscar. And everyone's like, oh, right, Lee Daniels, sure. And you're like, right, there's a barrier we haven't crossed yet. And then she's like...
he's only the third at that point? Second.
Is Singleton the only other black nominee?
I think at that point. Now we've had Steve McQueen, Barry Jenkins. Denzel was never nominated as director.
As a director? Oh, okay.
Lee Daniels at that point was only second. It was Singleton.
Because Jeffrey Fletcher, who wrote Precious, was the first black screenwriter to win.
Yep.
Look, the Oscars are embarrassing.
I have a question. Yeah. What were the other Best Picture films nominated?
The other nominees that year, because then she has to do this awkward thing where she's like, and if any of the other nominees win, they'll be directors who brought their own stories to their
Thanks, Barbara.
film, where it's like they all wrote their movie.
Some guy.
Can you name the 5 nominees, Griff?
There were 10 this year.
No, 5 director nominees.
Oh, the 5 director nominees?
I want to know the Best Picture nominees, too.
Okay. The 5 director nominees were...
Because it's a good year, in my opinion.
Were Lee Daniels, Catherine Bigelow, Jimmy Cameron for Avatar.
Mm-hmm.
Let's see. District 9 was nominated for Best Picture, but not for Best Director.
True.
A Serious Man was nominated for Best Picture, but not Best Director.
True.
Quentin Tarantino for Inglourious Bastards.
Correct.
Nominated director and picture.
Yes.
That would have been my pick that year. I think that's a great movie. I think that's his best movie.
Fuck you, Griffin.
I think that's his best movie
Do you
by.
really think that's his best movie? That's
yeah,
very
a lot of
interesting.
people
by a long
think that.
shot.
Yeah.
Someday we'll do that episode. I got my whole read in that movie. I think that movie's a masterpiece.
I've
and I
never
have
seen it.
problems with him.
I've seen other Tarantino films, but I kind of can't with him.
You haven't seen Inglourious Bastards?
I have not seen
I think
Inglourious
you'd like
Bastards.
Inglourious
the two I will stand
I
by
did
till
see
my dying
Django
day.
Unchained, and
It's a
I
different
texted
movie.
through it. It really drove me crazy.
I think they're very different movies.
Okay, I appreciate that.
Jackie Brown and Inglourious Bastards are the two I will stand behind to my dying day. The rest of them I have complicated series of feelings about.
Okay,
This is
go
a
on.
great conversation that I don't care about. Keep going.
Okay, wait. So let me
So
think
you've got
of the other ones.
7
I have 4 out of 5.
Best Picture nominees, 4 Director nominees. Yeah.
Yeah. The 5th one is, it's obviously another white guy.
Yes.
Single Man didn't get nominated for Best Picture. I'm thinking through the acting nominees now. Crazy Heart did not get nominated for Best Picture.
It did win,
But
unfortunately.
it won Best Actor. Right, so that's that. Monique won supporting.
This is such a beautiful process to watch.
Yeah, Best Actress that year, 2009, would have been Sandra Bullock for The Blind Side, which is nominated for Best Picture, but not Best Director.
Of course.
And then Best Supporting Actor that year, 2000.
No, that's Christoph Waltz, so you're not.
Oh,
you're
Inglourious
Yeah,
barking up the
Okay.
wrong tree.
yeah.
Okay, so then who would the 5th person have been? Give me a clue about the 5th Best Director.
It's a dramedy.
Oh. Ben pointed upwards
Mhm.
because much like Aloha, this last nominee is all about the sky. It's Jason Reitman for Up in the Air.
Oh, nice.
Can
So-
you name the other 2 Best Picture nominees?
Well, that's one of them, right?
Oh, yeah. Can you?
I only have
no,
one left.
No, you have 2 left.
I have 2 left.
Yeah.
Up.
Correct.
There we go.
But see,
Okay.
the other up.
And yeah.
Yep.
And then the 10th one. Give me a clue about the 10th one.
Oh no, wait. You have them all. You do have
Thank
them all.
you.
I'm sorry. You have them all.
Thank you.
Oh no, you don't. You don't. No, it's
What?
Oh no, did you say it's an English movie?
He said both Serious Man and Single Man.
No, that's not what I'm talking about.
Oh, okay.
Yeah,
There's an English movie
yeah. There was an actress nominee in there.
for lead.
Yes.
Is it a Mirren?
No.
Is
it
young,
Dench?
A young woman. A young woman. Very
Oh,
talented.
it's an education.
And education.
Oh.
An education. An edumacation.
So those are the director and picture nominees. Of course, yes, this movie eventually rushes headlong into. It doesn't win any of the Golden Globes, which go to Avatar. It's this sort of rivalry with Avatar. There's this sort of media narrative of like, oh my God, Bigelow and Cameron, ex-husband and wife. Like,
Yeah.
oh,
And at the end of the year,
little movie, big movie. Yeah.
I feel like at the end of the year, Precious was the front runner. Everyone was like, this is a weird year because there doesn't really seem like a front runner. Precious was almost by default. Hurt Locker had been out of theaters for a while at that point. It was so small that people thought it really
when are
couldn't
you
gain
saying
traction.
that Precious was the front runner?
Like November.
Right, because then Hurt Locker
saying
sweeps
pre-nominations.
the critical awards.
I'm saying
right.
pre-nominations.
Okay.
When just everyone was seeing the movies, they were like, I guess it's Precious. Avatar wasn't screened until very late.
Right,
Everyone
Avatar
thought it
comes
was going
right
to
at
be
the
a
end.
flop.
Right.
And then when it came out, it surprisingly became this Best Picture frontrunner
Right.
because it's a weird 3-hour sci-fi
Well, and also
movie.
when the best, like again, Streisand's like, you know, in one of these films is the most successful film ever made.
Ever made.
Which, and you're kind of like, right, Avatar, right,
Yeah.
the most successful film ever made.
I think if
Crazy.
Avatar had
Yeah.
made $350 million as opposed to $750 million,
Sure,
it would have won Best
narrative
Picture.
might not have been there. Oh, you're saying, well, anyway,
I don't think it should have, but I think it would have.
maybe.
I think when it crossed 700, everyone was like, we don't need to give him another fucking thing.
I think honestly, he was never going to win because of Titanic, personally, but maybe.
I don't think he was
so.
ever going to win Best Director. I think she had that on lock. I think if the movie had made a little less money, it would have won Best Picture just for the size of it.
But here's my question,
Maybe.
dude.
Sure.
How do
It's
we
hypothetical.
feel about the narrative of James Cameron, like
annoying.
ceding
It's annoying.
his Oscar win to his
little bit.
ex-wife?
Okay.
A little annoying.
I agree with that. I think it's kind of obnoxious. I think he inserted himself into that
I
narrative.
agree. Here's the narrative I like.
Yeah.
Catherine Bigelow just fucking owning her ex-husband.
right,
That's the
right,
narrative
of
I
course.
play in my mind.
But he has to spin it like this in order to keep his like credibility.
Right, so I don't listen to what he is saying, and I
Right,
listen
right.
to her
James Cameron's
silence.
a great person to not listen to.
But then here's
Classy silence
but then
on
here's
just
my other
being
question,
like, yeah.
and I think it casts this sort of shadow. Is like, well, much like Sofia Coppola, did Catherine Bigelow get this movie made because of her connection to men in the industry?
Maybe, but isn't that true of everybody?
But
who
I
ever
also
got a
think,
movie
I mean,
made?
he apparently helped her a lot in this film, was one of the people who,
Yeah, they're
she was
friends.
between a couple projects, and he said, you gotta make this. This is like, this could be the defining war film. They remain
I think
close.
James Cameron is friends with all its exes because all its exes are like, you know what? it's great not being married to you, but I do
Right.
like you, and you're a fun person to talk
And
to.
they
It
were
was just
all-
being married to you that was really stressful.
They were
because it just
key collaborators too. You know, they're people who
because
are
they've
like,
already collaborated on a movie post divorce,
Right.
Okay.
Strange Days, he wrote it and she directed it.
Okay.
So
All right.
I think they have a genuine relationship,
I mean,
but
okay.
it is funny.
I think
Okay.
the answer is objectively no, it would not have gotten made. But I also think she's in a specific position because it's not just like, well, she needed men to help her. It's like she's lucky that her ex-husband, who she's still on good terms with,
But
who
this
vouches for
movie-
her artistically.
Right, but no, also, this was an indie movie. She got the money together. This is a Catherine Bigelow production. Yeah. I mean, like, it isn't even like a Megan Ellison writes the check.
No,
this is
I just think Cameron
piecemeal.
always helped her in terms of he was taken so seriously during the periods of time where she was discounted, and he would always kind of say to people like, you don't understand how good a filmmaker she is.
Right.
Like, even if you can discount her as an action filmmaker, say this or that, I know the
I
bones
say
of what
we
makes a
stop
good
talking about
person.
James Cameron right now.
I agree.
Okay,
But it's
let's not
important to
talk
talk about within the narrative of the Oscars and all
I
the
want to
blah,
play
blah,
the
blah,
box office game. Yes, I want to play the box office.
Jinx, you want me to?
Yeah, great.
Okay.
This movie came out on 4 theaters, June 26, 2009. We're going to do this week because it never really
Agreed.
expanded. It just
Right.
slowly.
This is the right week to do. Okay.
2009, June 26, but it opens number 27 with $145,000 on 4 screens.
I mean, this is
Very
pretty good. Yeah.
2 days after my birthday. Go on.
Congratulations,
Birthday,
Benjamin.
number 1 at the movie.
Okay.
Is
Number
a new,
one at
is
the
number 1 at the movie is a new film. Sorry, this is a
Connoisseur
game we
of
play,
contest.
Sonia.
Connoisseur
I'm following along.
Yeah, you're following along.
of contest.
Number 1 at the box office is a new film that is also number 1 in the highly ill-advised Box Office Mojo category of Travelogue Middle East, which The Hurt Locker also belongs to.
Oh my God.
Let me tell you, when you think about this movie, which opens to $108
Oh my God. Is it
million,
Borat? Is it something like
No,
Borat?
no,
Okay.
no.
I believe I know what it is. Is it Transformers: Revenge of the Fallen?
Correct.
Oh
the
my
second
God.
Transformers movie.
That's a really bad way to characterize that movie. So wait, so Sex and the City 2 doesn't come out until the following year, right? That's 2010 or 2011? Because that would also, I imagine, be in that Box Office Mojo category.
Sex and the City 2
Travelogue Middle East.
is number 15 in the Travelogue
Okay.
Middle East, which, again, to tell you how ill-advised. Travelogue?
Yeah, fuck that.
Transformers Passion of the Christ is number 2.
I don't think that's a travelogue.
Passion of the Christ?
American Sniper Iron Man, which, I mean, yeah, okay, has scenes set in the Middle
Right.
East. Raiders of the Lost Ark, Aladdin, Mission Impossible. It's a nightmare. This list is a
Is
nightmare.
Lawrence of Arabia in there? That's
Probably.
the only one that seems like a travel.
No, but
It may
Sex
not
and the
be
City-
in this.
Sex and the City
Box Office
2
Mojo.
is
It's
like
too
a
old.
bunch of white women being like, wouldn't it be fun to go to the Middle
That
East?
is
Like,
a
that feels
genuine
like,
travelogue.
that
They
feels like a
travel to
genuine-
the UAE
Right.
for no particular reason.
Right, movies about people like being embedded in war there.
That does
is,
also
like,
have a
that's not
scene where
travelogue.
Samantha...
Jesus walking through the stations of the cross.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah,
That does have
a travelogue.
Sex and the City 2 does have a scene where Samantha says, Lawrence of my labia. Referring to a hot man.
Wow, what a showstopper.
Did,
I'm so
and
glad.
he was.
I'm so glad we introduced that into this really important
She
discussion of
dubbed
this like
him
war film.
Lawrence of my labia. Anyway, number 2 at the box office that weekend is a rom-com that was a huge surprise breakout hit of this summer.
The Proposal.
The Proposal. Who remembers that movie? Sandra
do.
Bullock, Ryan Reynolds.
I'll say this. So
Betty
Canada.
White.
Canada.
Sure.
Yeah.
A scene where they are nude.
A scene where she is naked. Yeah.
No,
right,
they
he's
bump
wearing a
naked. They bump
towel,
into
I
each
think.
other.
Yeah, no, yeah, they bump into
you're
so where they are
right.
nude and they bump into each other.
She
They
looks really
switch
good.
Places? Is
they
that-
both
Her
look
age.
really good in that movie.
yeah, and then they switch places.
And
Right, it's a
also,
body swap.
I hated this movie.
It's a bad movie.
Yeah.
I've never seen this movie.
It's really bad.
I will say
It does have it's like also at the height of Betty White fever.
this is
And
what
Oh my
launched
God.
Betty White
I know,
fever.
and
This is
it's-
what reignited it.
I know, and it's like so many like horny Betty White jokes. It's
Romley Newman,
Uh-huh.
past and future guest, close personal friend of mine, sister. We go way back.
Sister.
That's my improvised line I snuck into the tick, which I'm really proud of, and so I use it every time that rom comes up on the show. She loves rom-coms, Romley comedies. And we asked her at like dinner like 2 years ago when we were going through all the like bad rom-coms that Rom likes, like, what's your favorite? And she said, no question, The Proposal. She cites that as the best romantic comedy of her lifetime.
That's insane.
When she comes back on the show, whenever that happens, we will fucking put her on trial.
I love rom-coms and your sister is wrong. I'm sorry.
I love Romilly and rom-coms, but I do not love The Proposal.
I've never seen it. I tried watching 15 minutes of it on a plane. I could not get through. She swears by it. I don't know if she's ever rewatched it.
Has she seen My Best Friend's Wedding?
Yeah, loves it.
Very confusing.
Loves
okay.
it.
Anyway.
She like has respect for the ones that deserve to be on the Mount Rushmore. Has seen every notable rom-com from 1980 on, I would say. Swears by that movie. Yeah. Also loves Bullock. Well, that's a big part of it. I think she likes seeing Bullock in The
Bullock
Element.
too.
Yeah.
I just don't like The Proposal. She's good in it, I guess. She's doing her Bullock thing.
No, it's a good Sandra Bullock rom-com while you were sleeping.
That's a good Sandra Bullock.
She's seen that one.
It's a fun one.
That's some good Garcia,
I mean,
yeah,
the best Sandra Bullock rom-com
is Speed.
Anyway, number 3.
You were going to make the same joke,
yes.
right?
Yeah, wait,
we're all on the same point. 1,000 comedy points shared
I just
between
was
the three
like
of
stopped
us.
dead in my tracks there. Yeah,
let's comedy points family style. We all go in on them.
Yeah, it's like Moz sticks. Number 3 at the box office is like if The Proposal was a comedy sensation, this was the comedy sensation of 2000.
Is that okay?
The Hangover.
All right.
Jeez.
Yeah.
Blech.
Never forget.
Mm-hmm. Number 4.
My mother's favorite movie.
My mom fucking
Tell
loves
Sonia
that
about
movie too. I don't know why my mom's
like
like that.
My mom
movie.
has not seen that
My
movie.
mom loves that
My
movie.
mom fucking swears by that movie.
5 minutes of the movie came on TV, and my mom was laughing so hard she had her face covered. Like it was unreal.
That's amazing.
My mom said that was the hardest she ever laughed until Girls Trip this year. My mom went ballistic for Girls Trip. Ballistic.
Ben, please pitch the prequel to Sonia.
Okay, so Sonia, it's The Hangover, but it's a prequel. It's called The Buzz.
Okay.
They're all in high school. It's the same 4 guys. And
They get
one of them
buzzed.
gets locked in the janitor closet. And it's the day of prom, and they got to find him.
Now, wait, I want to make something very clear, okay? We have a segment on the show sometimes called Benny on the Record, where Ben tries to predict something. Sonia, you're a journalist for Variety, a major, major pillar of reporting within this industry.
Oh, boy.
This is Benny off the record, okay? He's pitching this around town. There's a lot of buzz. It's a hot package.
It's a hot, yeah. Sources are saying.
Right. Okay? So you cannot break this story. We're only going to record it and release it on a podcast, but you cannot
Oh my God.
report on this pitch.
Scout's honor.
Benny off the record.
And also, anyone listening out there, don't take this idea, all right?
Ben,
don't tweet about
Look
it.
at the running time. It's time to be done.
David's so agitated. It's good.
Number 4 at the box office.
I'm trying to think of what the animal would be that shows up.
Oh, sure. It's going to be a toucan. I don't know. Number 4 at the box office, a movie they all thought was going to be not as successful as the movies this studio usually releases. But boy, were they wrong. Just because it stars an old man.
Oh, Up.
Up.
Oh.
Yeah, that was their argument always, was like, no one made toys for Up because they were like, oh, what are the kids going to like? And it's like, first of all, every kid loves their grandpa.
Yep.
Second of all, the main fucking supporting cast of the movie is talking dogs.
It's like dogs and weird animals. Yeah.
No one made toys for that movie, and the movie is fucking dogs flying airplanes.
But
Right.
also balloons.
Yeah.
Kids love balloons.
And a little boy.
Yeah. Yeah.
There's a
The
little
boy is also
Scout.
very good.
There
Yeah.
was no merchandise for that movie. It's so bizarre. When we do our fucking Up episode, there's going to be a negative merchandise spotlight.
Have we been in
never
this room
doing
for 3 hours?
Yes, we have. We've been in this room for 100 million years. We're never doing our Up episode, but if we ever
we are.
do it, it would be called Fucking Up, because that's funny.
Hey, Peville, that was funny. Let's talk about it more.
Thank
We're
you.
going back.
Number 5 at the box
Our
office.
Up episode is going to be in our Pete Doctor miniseries, which is going to be called Podsters Cast.
I hate you. I hate everyone in the world.
Podsters Cast.
That's so cute.
Podsters Ka.
Number 5 at the box office is this is the first time in a while that I've been done with an episode.
I've never been more into an episode. I could record another hour, easy.
Good, great. Number 5 is a Nick Cassavetes joint.
My other sister.
Say it again. It's not that one.
My sister's sister.
My sister's
Keeper. There we
you
go.
A Weepy with Cameron Diaz.
I get all those sister movies.
Abigail Breslin.
Yes.
This fucking movie. Isn't it based on the Jodi Picoult book or something?
believe it is.
Yes, I think Alec Baldwin's in it.
I believe
sort
he
of in
plays
his
the
early
doctor.
revival.
It's like somewhat. It's like cancer and organ donation.
Correct.
It's not. It's
And
rough.
there's another.
Yeah, I saw it 8 times.
There's another sister too that I think Dakota Fanning was supposed to play, and then she quit because she wouldn't shave her head. There's like a story behind that movie where it was like Dakota Fanning is not committed enough as an actress to shave her head, and then whoever they got shaved her head, and then it didn't help her career.
No. It opened to $12 million. Other movies, you got Year One.
Big hit.
Yeah, boy.
Never.
Caveman comedy with Michael Cera and Jack Black.
Harold Ramis's final film.
last film, unfortunately. Taken to Pelham 1, 2, 3 remake, which is sort of a soft little hit that summer.
But people thought it was going to be big or...
Yeah, sure. Star Trek, which is great.
Big hit.
Oh, wow.
Night at the Museum Battle of the Smithsonian, which obviously went on to win Best Picture that year. Best Smithsonian Picture, obviously.
Yeah, right. The first movie by a monkey to win Best Picture.
Away We Go, Land of the Lost. Ooh, there were some real stinkers. Angels and Demons, Terminator Salvation. This is like a lot of stinkers.
I'll say this. This was right around the time when they announced the 10 Best Picture thing, because this was the first year of that.
The year post Dark Knight, where they're like, uh-oh.
And I remember everyone saying, like, looking at the box office at that weekend and going like, so what gets in now? Does Up get in? Is Pixar going to get in now? Is Star Trek going to get in? Like, they were like, they've done this to add in more blockbusters.
Right. Star Trek came close. For sure.
I think District 9,
PGA nomination.
If District 9 hadn't gotten in, Star Trek would have gotten in.
Yeah.
And then Avatar 2. Having two big sci-fi movies that year fucked over Star Trek. Otherwise, I think it would have gotten the nod.
Quite possibly. So, yeah, The Hurt Locker, it grosses 17 total.
Yeah.
That's it.
Not great.
It's out of theaters by, like, October, you know. But it did linger around for a while, and I did go to see it. This is when I'm still obviously a huge movie fan, but I'm not writing about movies, and I am sort of like more just like I just go see things.
Yeah.
And yeah, someone was just like, it's so fucking good. Like it's like the best action movie I've seen in years.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, okay.
Summit didn't know how to sell
It's
it.
interesting because I would never call it an action movie.
I called it.
No, but it is.
Yeah.
It is.
Yeah.
It's
All
an action
set
movie.
pieces.
Yes, it's all set pieces.
No.
Yeah.
It's just I would never think to.
No, right. Because you
Yes.
think of an action movie as being less static.
Fun.
It's a very
Right.
static movie.
Fun
and it's
movie.
right.
This is not a fun movie, but it's
Fun
like
movie.
it's a really
But it's great.
effective,
Yeah,
visceral action movie.
And then it wins 6 Academy Awards. Can you name the 6?
It wins Best Picture. It wins Best Director. It wins Best Screenplay. It wins Best Editing. It wins both the Sound Awards.
Yes, it doesn't win cinematography, music.
Cinematography
and actor.
loses to Avatar, which is kind of weird.
Yeah, well, neither of them should have won, but yeah.
I think watching this movie a second time, I was
it's
very
a
taken back
well-shot
by
movie.
the cinematography.
I've never been the biggest Barry Ackroyd fan, but he does. This is like his best.
I agree. I think this is the best example of this type of shooting.
What do you think should have won?
I just wanted to double check the cinematography nominees, but yeah, any of the other 3 nominees would be my picks.
Did Deke get in there?
Deacon is not in there. You've got Robert Richardson for Inglourious Bastards. You've got Bruno Del Bonell for the aforementioned Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince, which
That's
is
a
one of the
great
most gorgeous
looking movie.
movies
That
ever
is
made
very true.
of recent times.
That's an aesthetic feast.
Not ever made. One of the most gorgeous movies
that's
ever
a gorgeous
around them.
And that's when Yates figured out his aesthetic for that
sure.
franchise, because the one before that, whatever it is kind of
Five
whatever
is not.
looking.
Five
yeah.
is a mess.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Some people like that one. And then Christian
Visually, it's
Christian
undistinguished.
Berger, who shot The White Ribbon, which is like great cinematography.
That would have been my
nomination
winner.
and a beautiful.
That's actually one of the best looking movies I've ever seen.
It's
Yeah.
so wonderful.
Yeah.
So anyway, there you go. Yeah.
Interesting. Renner would have been my best actor that year.
Yes. I mean, Bridges won because he was legacy.
Yeah.
Winner.
But say this, okay? If Bridges had lost this year because they felt like this was our year to honor Bridges, if Bridges had lost and they had given it to either Renner, who I think should have won, or Firth, who I think is excellent in Single Man.
Who wins the next year. Yeah.
Right. Okay, so what happens if they'd given Firth this year for Single Man and then waited next year and gave Bridges Best Actor for True Grit? I think those are better performances from each guy. I kind of wish they Freaky Friday.
Here's what I think
What's
happens.
Bridges nominated for this?
Crazy Heart.
Oh,
So this weird
fucking
He's not
cares.
even bad in it. It's just sort of
Fine.
like, yeah.
But he tops it next year. Like next year,
but
he's in a better
here's
movie
what I
giving a
think
better
happens
version
if
of that
Firth wins
performance.
in 09, I think he still wins in 10.
I think they go to Bridges. Remember how much like
but the
fucking
Lord-
like Bridges
people love-
drum banging like we've
He's
never.
the best. I love Jeff
Yeah.
Bridges.
People love the King's
People love
Speech.
the King's
But
Speech.
Jeff Bridges' performance in True Grit is truly weird.
Which
Whereas,
I love about
I
it.
agree, but Jeff Bridges' performance in Crazy Heart's a real Oscar picture
Yeah.
where he's like, I'm so drunk.
Yeah.
I'm a fuck up. Now I'm going to sing a song with Colin Farrell.
But in True Grit, he wears long underwear.
I know he's great.
He
You
loves
are
to
not
pull the cork.
Biff.
Yeah, he's so good in it.
You are not the
What was
Biff.
Jeff Bridges nominated for before?
Thunderbolt and Lightfoot,
Last Picture Show.
Starman, The Last Picture Show, and The Contender.
Okay.
I don't think he was nominated for The Fabulous Baker Boys, which is one of his best performances.
He wasn't nominated for Fearless, right?
No, Rosie Perez was. What were you going to ask?
I'm afraid I'm
Tron.
going to say something wrong.
No, it's fine.
Say it.
Ask.
Say it.
No.
Say it.
No, I'm going to look at my phone instead.
What?
come on,
We got them
Sonia.
all. We got them all.
This is safe
Yeah.
space.
But
Okay.
what?
Was there one you were thinking?
Are you worried that Jeff Bridges wasn't in the movie you're
Yes.
going to say?
Yes.
What is it?
No, I'm
Paypacks?
not saying it out loud. Give me a second.
Surf's Up.
I mean, he
Yeah,
is.
okay. I was going to ask about The Big Lebowski, and then I got
Yes.
really
Yeah,
stressed out.
yeah.
I was like, do I not
No,
know
he
who's in
should
The
have
Big
been, but
Lebowski?
that movie was sort of a flap when it came out, and
Yeah.
the Oscars ignored it.
You're gonna get flamed for this episode. So
God damn it.
Anyway, so
they're gonna call you Boston Market because
You
you're
guys-
about to get flame roasted.
I'm like really hungry.
Yeah, we're
speaking
done.
of
Yeah. Okay.
food.
Cool. Food school.
Okay.
this episode's like 4 hours long.
Great.
I had so much fun.
I did
had a
too. I
great
had a great
time.
time. I had a great time. Yeah, I did. I genuinely did.
Sonny, thank you so much for being on the show.
Thank you guys so much for having me. It was really fun. And this was a really fun movie to talk about.
People should read Variety. That's the best source to find out who's ankling projects,
Oh my God.
which skeins are hitting
Which
the skids.
skeins?
Oh my God.
Skeins. You don't have to say skeen.
Bophobio.
I do not have to say skiing
Bophobia.
anymore. I think that like that
That's all gone.
that ethos has faded.
Do you ever
Yeah.
say ankle though?
No, I don't really know what it means.
I think it's a great.
Like
fake
David is
phrase.
furious and wants to ankle this recording studio immediately.
Does that mean take it out at the ankle?
Get out of. Leave.
Oh, ankle.
They would always say that when someone like quits a movie, they go like,
It's weird.
yeah.
Well, now
Brad
that's-
Pitt has ankled the fountain.
That's Rushfield's new thing. It's called the Ankler. I wonder if that's
I
like
think it probably is.
it's like a reference.
People should follow you on Twitter.
yeah, I like having okay Twitter sometimes.
I think it's a good Twitter.
Good Twitter.
And you also, I'll say this, in my 6 weeks of doing my press tour, which I did not love, you were like the bright spot.
Aw.
Or at
Great
the,
interview.
The end of this New York
Aw.
day, this press day, when I had to do all these like 5-minute capsule interviews that were just like melting my brain, I got to end the day with you, and the PR person came in after like 15 minutes and was like, I think Griffin has to go. And I was like,
And you were like, no, I want to talk more.
and she was like, oh, I thought you'd probably just want to go sleep. And I'm like, I do, but I want to actually get complicated thoughts out. And we had this like fucking great conversation.
It was great.
That I think you wrote up really well. And I even like the way you contextualize it is like two friends talking about like, I can't believe we're in these positions right now. We're talking in this situation.
It was the best.
I am
don't
weirdly
know,
like
it's awesome.
almost as proud of that interview as I am of my work on the
Oh
show.
my God, that's
Great
such
job
a
on the
good thing
tick.
to say.
Great job in the
Griffin.
No, I
interview.
truly because I felt
Oh.
like that was like the conversation where I got to encapsulate everything I
And
was
you definitely
believing
like
in.
got to say things in your own voice because
Yes.
I feel like that's part of it too. Is like, of course, when you're thinking about being an actor, you're thinking about how like every other person who's been in a superhero film of some kind has
Right.
like somehow framed their performance. Like it was just great to like hear
I'll
all
say
that
this
from
too.
you.
Almost every other review I did, people misquoted me in one way or another. I think because I like mumble and I talk fast and stuff, and they just like kept on using words that didn't make sense and like completely decimated the logic of whatever sentence I was saying.
Oh no!
And you're the one person I think because you know me well enough to be like,
Maybe I just understood your sentences.
right?
Yeah.
Because I read these
Yeah.
other things where people were like, they clearly just thought I was talking gibberish. But thank you for that.
Oh my God! Thank you for doing it.
It was a real pleasure. Thank you for
was
being on the
fun.
show. We'll have you on again sooner.
Oh my God. No, it was great to be here. And if you guys do end up talking about, I don't know, the Harry Potter films,
We'll have you back.
Alfonso Cuarón.
We'll do our David Yates
we'll talk.
miniseries.
We'll talk one day.
Yeah.
All right. Well, bye, Blankies. Thanks for having me.
Oh, God, they're going to love that you address them by name. Thank you all for listening. Please remember to rate, review, subscribe. Go to blankies.reddit.com for some real nerdy shit.
Nerdy shit.
Thank you to Ange Fergudo for our social media, Joe Bowen and Pat Reynolds for our artwork, Lane Montgomery for our theme song. And as always,
As always.
lock the gates.
Here we go.